Hello, everyone. We're here for another amazing edition of Toronto Business Journal Presents, and we have two fabulous guests to talk about the Mandela Effect today. Take it away, Santosh.
Brian Staveley has been a podcast host video creator since 2010. His journey started with 9/11 while being heavily focused on the media fakery aspects of that day. His journey progressed through other fabricated events, fake space travel, lies of heliocentrism, and the Rona PSYOP. The last several years, Brian's main focus has been the retroactive reality shifts we all experience, more commonly known as the Mandela Effect. Besides an extensive archive of podcasts dating back to 2010, Brian has transitioned to making 2,000 videos in the past 5 years, with the primary focus being the Mandela Effect. He can be found on nearly every platform under the name Brian S. Staveley, and all his links can be found at one spot on his website at therealnewsonline.com. A near-death experience in 2013 sent playwright Nathan Sanders down this rabbit hole. The human appearing being he first encountered during his NDE laid the foundation for what was to come in 2015, when Nathan discovered the supernatural phenomenon known as the Mandela Effect. Nathan believes that the changes in our reality that we are witnessing may be contact from a higher intelligence that has the ability to make changes in our actual physical reality. Welcome to the show, guys. Really a great honor to have you both here.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Today what I'm doing is I welcome you both, Brian and Nathan. I've been looking forward to the show for quite a while, as Brian knows and stuff like that. I'm anxious to get both of you on. First thing I want to talk about is what inspired our show today. What inspired the show is that I was listening to your amazing YouTube channel, and then you were talking about the Mandela Effect, and then Nathan made a remark about, well, that he can elaborate as well, about, not wanting to live in some kind of make-believe world, some kind of fake environment of some kind. And that sort of reminded me to what, in my views, the Mandela Effect, to a certain extent, is an experience which to me is reminiscent of the Wizard of Oz. When Dorothy, which is Julie Garland, actress, wake up in her bed, and all her family saying, "Oh, you were in a dream." And says, "No, it wasn't a dream." So to me, when Nathan mentioned that, it sort of conveyed my sort of feeling is this Mandela Effect, a part of some kind of dream reality, Twilight Zone type of experience. So I just wanted to give Nathan a chance to kind of elaborate that, because do you remember the show that you were talking about, not wanting to live in this sort of fake environment? And can you elaborate that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, when I discovered the Mandela Effect in 2015, it was the Sex and the City change. I worked for a charity out in San Francisco, and we did a big fundraiser with premiering one of the Sex and the City movies. And it was a show that I watched, I knew about it, and it was Sex in the City. In my reality, everyone that I knew was Sex in the City. And I got a call from a friend in Australia, and he said, go on YouTube and type in Sex in the City and watch the opening credits and look what it says. And I'll never forget that bus going by and Sarah Jessica Parker and all that running in her heels down the road. And when I saw Sex and the City, the first thing I thought is, okay, that's what Sam meant. I had a near-death experience 10 years ago, actually, this year, 2013, October 25th. And I encountered an intelligent male human-looking being who later identified himself as Sam. And he said to me, and this is in 2003, he said, something's going to happen to that you're going to notice, that you're going to become aware of within a year or two, and it's going to change everything. And so as soon as I saw Sex in the City with Sex and the City, I thought that's what he meant, because what he was communicating with me in the near death was this was what we're going to be witnesses is some sort of otherworldly or divine intervention, let's put it that way, of something higher and more knowledgeable is intervening in what's going on here in our physical reality. So I'd been waiting for something big, and then when I saw sex, and then I went and looked up, and I found out a Berenstein Bears was Berenstain Bear. I was like, does Sam and whoever he's with, do they have the knowledge of how to actually get into the very fabric of our physical reality and change it as if it were a computer code of some kind? So that's how I got into it with, but to answer your question, I reached out to Brian and he invited me on, and we throw out, like, if this is a simulation, and I don't know what it is, I keep everything on the table, but I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, as I sit here, Nathan Sanders, and I swear on everything that's holy, reality is altering. And once you know that, it changes everything. So I keep everything on the table. I don't know what this is, but I know it's not an organic, natural reality the way we've been told. That's some sort of deception or misunderstanding. And so, yeah, are we in a simulation? Philip K. Dick said we were in the 70s at a famous speech he gave at a press conference in Paris. He said, I have evidence that we are living in a computer-generated reality. And the only way one would know it is if a variable changes and gets your attention. So for me, Sex in the City really got my attention. And that was better for me than the near death, because the near death, I can't prove any of that. I don't have any outside, do you know what I'm saying? But when I saw the physical reality change, I was like, okay, they mean business.
Yes.
Yeah. So one comment. So definitely. Thanks for sharing that, Nathan. One comment. Well, one comment I want to make about the intention of the show in general is that there are a lot of videos out there about the Mandela Effect. What our purpose that I'm hoping for is that we can, for people who either know about the Mandela Effect or are open to it or just curious, to provide us much condensed information about the Mandela Effect, which is going to hopefully start to additionally stir, more sort of introspection on what it actually is. Because, of course, there are a lot of, one thing I love about your channel, your channel, Nathan and Brian together, is that you're trying to give solid information, but there's a lot of misinformation and all sorts of manipulation. So one of the things I wanted to start off today is the two things I want to get everybody to share is that I'm hoping that everybody can share what you already did to some extent, Nathan, is what everybody's initial experience on a Mandela Effect, as well as there's some sort of, since I've been paying attention to the Mandela Effect for a while, there seems to be, I kind of try to narrow it down on some schools of thought, so to speak, and perhaps we can have an opportunity of discussing that to additionally stimulating our discussion today. But the school of thought which I've somewhat narrowed down on a Mandela Effect is that one sort of the school of thought that the sort of the establishments seems to want us to think is Mandela Effect is just misremembering. There's a whole lot of people all of a sudden going senile. The second school of thought seems to be a new age school of thought that we're into some fifth dimension or wherever, and after 2012 we just are, this is all part of our spiritual evolution,
awakening.
Awakening. And there's another school of thought which thinks that, okay, this is a result of some sort of CERN accident, manipulation, or timeline convergence precipitated by CERN. And one school of thought. The other school of thought is it's intelligent design, but it's for our own good. And the other school of thought, which is the last one, which I tend to be more sort of leaned towards, is intelligent design, but of a deceptive nature by some sort of alien type of consciousness, which does not necessarily have humans' best interest at heart that is manipulating us. To me, it's sort of, to me, the best way of describing it is that if for any one of us out there, on the show or out there listening or watching us, that has ever watched Star Trek, to me, is a repeated theme of the Star Trek Enterprise crew all of a sudden gets in contact with an alien intelligence. They scan their brain or beam them in some sort of holographic environment, trying to deceive them into thinking that it's actually real. And then the Enterprise people, through their own human intelligence, eventually starts to figure out that it's all a holographic simulation, which is...
And the holodeck, right?
Yeah, holodeck.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the school stuff thought. But I wanted to get, Brian, your first initial experience of what the Mandela Effect, I mean, so Nathan talks about Sex in the City versus Sex in the City. So how did you get into it?
So the first one for me was around very late 2014 or early 2015, and a friend of mine sent me a side-by-side Berenstain. And I sometimes even hate telling the story because it's such a common Mandela Effect. It's not a unique story at all. Everybody has this story, but so I kind of realized what it was right away. I didn't brush it off, but I was really heavily vested into already looking into some other really big things, which, we can touch on after if you want, right around the same time. So it took me a few months to really, because I knew I used to have Berenstain books when I was a kid, used to get them from the book club at school. I understood the concept of the Mandela Effect, and I did enough research to look around and see that the current reality always sat as Berenstain. So it was on my mind. But what had really happened is I'd like to talk about the second and third Mandela effects that I saw, because that's what really made me take it very seriously. And that was everything to do with the JFK assassination. And also the location of South America, the Panama Canal, and the size and location of Cuba. That completely blew my mind, because now it's like, okay, and I already think it's phenomenal if printed books that are sitting in your house can supernaturally change. That's phenomenal. But now we're talking about the land masses of the earth. And I already understand the concept at this time already completely, that we're given fake images of where we are. Maps have been made for political reasons. Google Earth is manipulated. None of that applies, though. Because if you do remember South America, like I do, being predominantly underneath North America, and you remember the Panama Canal being east and west, or you remember Cuba as a small island to the southeast of Florida, well, you're highly Mandela affected. That's never been the case in this reality. And if you think this is just a psyop and people change the maps and change the globes and all that, go get your globe out of the basement and pull it out and let's see what's on there, because what's going to be on there is South America is going to be like 1,500 miles over to the east. The Panama Canal is going to be like this, almost north and south. And Cuba is going to be so big, it's like the size of Florida now. And it's also west of Florida, almost connected to Mexico. So that's what really blew my mind. Now, at the time that this had happened, we didn't really touch on it too much, but you did in the intro. Since 2010, I've been doing this type of thing, but it wasn't Mandela Effect, 9/11, the thing in Connecticut, NASA, all of that stuff. At the very end of 2014, like the very end, last few days of 2014, I took a 2-year break from broadcasting. Now I had tons of time to really look into all this. Okay. And then like around 2016, the Mandela Effect really started to hit me, because it was just so many, the musical changes and the messages that are in them. That's why I think, and we'll get to some of the theories after, but I don't think it's CERN or anything random. Some of these messages are very strong and of a very spiritual nature, like the change in the Jewel song is now "Who Will Save Your Souls" instead of "Soul" through most of the song. City of Angels is now "City of Angel." The California Dreamin' is now "I Get Down on My Knees," and instead of "Began to Pray," it's "I Pretend to Pray." The candles around Kurt Cobain before he died on the Nirvana Unplugged were all white. Now they're all black. There's this like theme to this, So what had happened is, go forward another year, 2017. I came back on the scene to talk a lot of 9/11 stuff, because I saw a lot of people fall into stuff that I knew was nonsense and fear promoting. But it didn't take me long before I started yammering on about the Mandela Effect. And then in 2018, in the middle of 2018, I went on a couple roundtables on somebody else's channel to talk Mandela Effect, and I was like, I gotta do my own channel. I gotta do this myself. I started interviewing people. I started doing live streams. I probably met Nathan shortly after, and now 5 years later, 2,000 videos later, here we
Wow.
are discussing what I think is the most phenomenal thing that's ever happened in the history of mankind, for surely in my lifetime. And I think it's been going on a really long time. I don't think it's started at a jumping off point when people started to talk about it on the internet. I think it's been going on a really long, and I have
Yeah.
evidence of such. I mean, my first Mandela Effect was actually 23 years ago, but I didn't know what it was until years later. And now looking
Yes, I've
back,
heard that too.
realizing
Yeah.
that person's name had changed 23 years ago, I thought, whoa, kind of just never really stuck with me until I realized this was going on. So I cover this extensively. I think it's, and I'll give the mic in a second. I'm sorry. I cover this extensively, and the reason I wanted to focus on, I was talking about 9/11 and flat Earth and Mandela Effect and these types of things, but the reason I really wanted to focus on this, number one, I think it's on a level that's just, unbelievable and out of unbelievable importance. And number two, what you guys alluded to earlier, there's a lot of Mandela Effect content and content creators out there, but there was a lot of crap, and that's
Yeah.
not a shot at the people that are good. There were a handful of really good people, but there are a lot of people that don't take it seriously. They don't use a lot of discernment. There's channels that I know put out bad Mandela Effects, and I don't want to do any of that. And I keep a pretty tight ship. Can I make a mistake? Sure. But if you go through any of my Mandela Effects, you're not going to find like, oh, he made a mistake here and this company changed their name here. And then, I mean, I'm very careful about it. And the fact that I've never read the Bible in my entire life, now I'm getting more and more familiar with it because of these Bible changes. I think that's very important as well. And I take phone calls all the time. We have live chat. People can call in. Anybody from the community can call in and share their experiences. And that's where we are now. Nathan's a frequent guest of mine, and I have a lot of other people I do shows with as well.
That's really good. Thank you so much for doing that for the Mandela Effect community and the Truther community in general. And the Bible is a big one because, there's a line, the strength of a unicorn. I've read the Bible on and off, like I was raised Christian. The strength of a unicorn. I was like crazy. And I was actually at the Bible store when I actually saw it. And I actually showed the Bible store owner. This guy has seen Bibles his whole life. And he was like, what? Really? Strength of, show me that. So they're just stunned. Like, yeah.
We do real investigation. People think that like we're just calling things Mandela Effects. And
Yeah.
I mean, maybe in a minute, me and Nathan, we can let Nathan take it first, can define what an actual real Mandela Effect is. But what I do though also is I talk to people on the street, including pastors and preachers, people holding up their Bible. I film it. I walk over to them and boom, 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 right down the list of all the Bible changes. They have the same memory as us. Nobody's misremembering. Everybody has the same memory in unison, almost across the board. There's variations in some of them, but almost across the board on everything, just whether they admit it or not. And it's interesting with these religious types because they hold the Bible or their other religious texts, because this changes and everything, near and dear to their heart.
Yeah.
And it's a book of supernatural stories. But now when the supernatural is presenting itself through your book, you want to just completely shut it down. Maybe Nathan, if you want to define what a real Mandela Effect is, I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, well, okay, here's one. Imodium. So my memory and the popular memory of the spelling of that was IMM at the the first three, and it lost an M there, and it became IMO instead of IMMO. When I first noticed that change, it was probably around 2015, 16, and I was really on to Mandela Effect and really starting to pay attention to everything in my physical reality. And when I saw that change, the first thing I did, I went to 3 pharmacies and I asked all 3 pharmacists how to spell Imodium. They all remembered it the way I did. When I got the box off the shelf and showed it, all 3 looked very perplexed. I went home and I Googled that spelling and got court documents, patents. I mean, everything with the memory of it being IMM, which matched now 3 different pharmacists. So anyway, you move on, right? So for me, that was a real change because I found evidence out there that not only did professionals associated with would know that, that's their wheelhouse, but that I had documents from lawsuits and everything, the public record, anything that a human being typed or entered did not change. Anything associated with the product and the reality as it is instantaneously altered. But then what's mysterious about this phenomenon my sister did not see this change until like a year and a half or 2 years ago.
Yep.
She kept it in her purse, and she called because she thought I was crazy with all this Mandela Effect stuff. And she admitted to me after Imodium that she did think I was nuts because things can't change. That's not possible. See, it's the human mind is in a box here, not letting us break free and evolve in our understanding of what reality is. So for whatever reason, she was able to recognize it later than when I did. It's almost like a page refreshed on a computer screen, and then there was the new spelling, and she suddenly saw it for the first time. And that's something she always carries. So for me, that's how, you got to do a little work and research first before,
Let me add to that too. Like, so when you see the Mandela Effect, for people watching this, when you see the Mandela Effect covered in the media, you're not going to hear people talk like this, obviously. But what you're also not going to see, they will present, for the most part, I'm not going to vouch for these liars, but for the most part, they do present what are legitimate Mandela effects. But all they do is they give you like the Monopoly Man and, the stuff that looks really superficial. They're never going to talk about the Bible changes. They're never going to talk about the airplane engines. They're never going to talk about the anatomy. They're never going to talk about the geography. But what people that are skeptical of the Mandela Effect, you should use a little discernment when it comes to looking at this stuff, because there's a few things that's always missing. What Nathan just talked about is what we call residual evidence, residue. And so when a Mandela Effect happens, like Hass avocados is another great example. You ask anybody the most famous type of avocado, you can even give them a hint because it still starts with an H. Say starts with an H. They'll tell you Hass, H-A-A-S, right? Now it's always been Hass, H-A-S-S. Yet the amount of residue on this, I mean, if you go to Walmart right now or you go to Kroger's, now, of course, the Hass avocado and any official packaging from them, stickers on the avocado, not only are they going to say Hass, the new spelling, H-A-S-S, okay? But that's retroactive. You could have one that's been in your fridge, buried in the back for 3 years, and it's had the sticker on it, and now that sticker is going to say H-A-S-S. You know what doesn't, though? Almost all the hand-drawn displays at places like Trader Joe's. And the reason I brought up Kroger and Walmart, their POS system, their computers have actually not updated to the current reality. So if you go and get a Hass avocado and ring it up, they'll print you a receipt for Hass, which has never existed. We're supposed to believe that we're all misremembering. None of this evidence matters. The fact that I could lock 100 people in a grocery store, walk up to them and ask them this question, and 100% of them are all going to say the same exact wrong answer in unison with each other. And on top of it, there's so many levels to it. Like the word pass with a short A is a word, like pass the football, right? Why would we take a word like Hass that's easy to pronounce and all insert something so strange as a double A dead smack in the middle of it? Like, come on, man. And then there's all these German Mandela effects, which I'm sure we'll get to when we get to history. But this is another one. Rudolf Haas is now Rudolf Hass, and Hass in German, which he is, means hate. So there's a lot. There's a lot of layers to this, man. But residual evidence, we have so much of it for every Mandela effect. I won't present one unless there's tons of Mandela effects. Tons of residue. And then since I've never read the Bible before this, I won't touch a Bible change unless it's insurmountable testimony of everybody, every pastor and preacher you could imagine, and I'm putting on videos, every people in the truth movement. We have hundreds of years of newspaper archives that go back quoting scripture the exact way in which it used to be, but we're supposed to think that we're all crazy. I mean, you tell people Isaiah 11:6, what animal lied with the lamb? They're all going to tell you lion. Then when you tell them that it's wolf and it's always been wolf, they go into this, what we call taking the update mode.
Yeah, the download.
Some of the things they say, it's just more aesthetically pleasing to say lie. And you're all just going to get this wrong, and not only get it wrong, you're all going to just put the same wrong animal in there, because there's tons of animals in the Bible. Where's the combination of wrong answers? It's really startling. And man, I just had a guy on the other night. I don't know if you saw him, my buddy John. His channel's called Wake Up or Else. People should check him out as well. He's excellent on the Bible changes, and he has a video of a Mandela Effect Bible quiz, 20 questions. Guaranteed you pass that along to anybody. Now, they might not be honest with you and tell you how they did on it, but they're going to get 19 or 20 out of 20 wrong. Pastors and preachers included. And it's the biggest things, too, with the Mandela Effect. It's not like I'm saying, hey, there's a Mandela effect at my uncle's graduation, and we just got to find the VHS tape from 1977, right? We're talking about Star Wars, Bibles, a globe, biggest musical artist. This is here, in my opinion, we're supposed to see this. And, I know we're not really going into all the theories yet, but I think that this is coming from a supernatural force. I think it's coming from the creator of the realm, in my opinion. I think a lot of it is definitely messages and a puzzle that we're trying to figure out, which is kind of what Nathan and I and another guy named C3PO's Golden Calf were talking about last week.
It's definitely to me, it's communication.
Yeah,
something trying to communicate.
No matter what, even if I'm wrong about where it's coming from, this stage in the game, you'd have to be a fool to think there's no intelligence behind it. It's not random.
Oh, yeah. And it shows a sense of humor too, an incredible sense of humor, and that it obviously knows the human animal, the human mind very well, and each person individually. I get personal messages through the changes, and with physical reality synchronicities. That's one thing I've noticed especially in the last year, the synchronicities surrounding the Mandela effect are really ramping up. I mean, it's exponentially getting more intense. And I feel that there is communication here. It's an attempt at some intelligence to speak to us in the way that it can or chooses to. Because my feeling is, if something big were to announce itself all of a sudden out of nowhere, most people would snap their pickle. They would not serve. They would go into a psychotic, what do you call it? Episode. I think they would literally lose it. And so it seems to me that this intelligence, what does it do? It starts changing things we're aware of. So it taps our awareness. It's like a knock on the door. Hello, human. Can you hear me? Because most of them can't. So it targeted every possible area of our world and our culture or pop culture. There's no area that hasn't been touched.
There's even personal changes. There's local changes.
Local changes for sure.
My own published play changed and then changed back.
Oh, tell that
2 years
story.
later.
You got to tell that story, because the idea that would be misremembered, and you went and you talked to the women that played in your play.
Yeah. See, this is the thing. The changes themselves are only part of this phenomenon, because then what happens, you see the reaction of people. That's really fascinating. And you start to hear the same responses from different people, almost as if they're playing a computer program. Like it's like in Westworld, where they see Dolores's dad sees the picture of the woman in Times Square with cars and stuff, and he's in the 1800s, and he shows his daughter and he says, "What do you think of this, Doris?" And she's like, "Doesn't look like anything to me, Daddy." They're literally programmed not to see. And that's what I was starting to see. Okay. And I've thought of this as also if we are organic beings and not in a simulation or whatever, perhaps what if this is an alien parasite consciousness of some kind? It may be technology or organic, I don't know, but it can literally inhabit the human mind as an opposing adversarial consciousness, which would explain why we're all nuts.
Like,
that there's something wrong, that we're sick we're affected by something that's not human, but almost has like a hive mind ability. And when anything comes in to question its reality, it's given us, say, this pernicious creator of whatever this is, alien or who knows.
We see what happened with the piano player, and we'll tell that story.
Yeah, I mean, and there's been a difference. When I first started telling people about Sex in the City in 2015, my roommate at the time, he got so hostile, I thought he's going to hit me.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I thought, oh my God. Because at first when I saw it, I was calling everybody up in the world I ever knew, all the way back to high school. I wanted, and I was shocked that it didn't matter to them. They weren't curious. It was just so bizarre, even when they remembered the way I remembered, because they all did. Every single one of them said Sex in the City. Then later, if I asked a whole table of people at a restaurant that now, they will all say Sex and the City, except for maybe one. So over time, it solidifies the change in the human memory.
Of course.
So to me, this thing, so you have the reactions of people, then there's the communication that I feel whatever this intelligence is that is making these changes knows each of us personally and is attempting to make personal contact. It's like saying, I'm going to change something in your play. I'm going to change the word moon to stars and see what that does to your consciousness. If that pings you in any way, because I think we're in something that's a deception. That's my personal feeling. That this is not good what we're in, and the prisoners are starting to get messages in through under the cell door.
We're awakening.
And we're sending it to each other and saying, "Wait a minute, if this isn't real, what are we doing in this thing?
It's like
let's go create a paradise or something and go live in that. What the hell's going on here?" So I started seeing a hostility coming back, and I started noticing an attempt online to deceive the human mind and making people think it was changed because of a lawsuit. This is what I heard from people. Well, maybe they changed it because it was a lawsuit.
They're always trying to find a weird logical explanation.
But see how pernicious,
and they never look it up. They'll never look up the weird little.
Well, what I found was a headline when I Googled it: "Sex in the City / Sex and the City, a lawsuit or something." I click on it, and there's the big thing. But when I read the article, it made no sense. It was almost like it was like an AI knew it needed to cover its ass because something hacked in and changed something, and the humans might notice. So it knows most people don't read the article. We just look at the headlines. So it didn't work any harder than it had to. It just put up so if I knew Sex in the City and I'm like, wait a minute, and I type it in, I'm going to see that headline, think, oh, okay, they changed it. And I never think that's what a creep this thing is. Whatever it is that's the conductor of this hellhole reality is really nasty when it comes to people finding this change. Because I think these changes are the key out of here. I do.
I think so.
What one thing what you're describing, Nathan, as theory in terms of a parasite of the mind and stuff, that's actually a documented phenomenon. I mean,
toxoplasmosis.
Yeah,
we have evidence of this.
But John Lash, for example, he wrote a book and he's done a lot of work. He used to have a site.
He's amazing. I love his Mandela Effect Decoded series was brilliant. If you can find it on YouTube, some people did copy it. It's not on his thing anymore, his channel, but I highly recommend it because it's somebody trying to figure out what they are, what the changes are, and what they mean, and taking it seriously from a scholarly point of view.
Yeah. So I think I'm mispronouncing it, but it's the Apocryphon of John. It's the hidden Gospels, basically.
Right.
And it talks about the fallen angels, and it warns that in the sort of the pagan Gnostic, before the Christian Bible, before Christianity, the pagan Gnostics used to warn of when they got into a certain elevated state of consciousness, orgiastic consciousness, they discovered what they described as artificial man, which was later defined as the fallen angels, which were a group of entities which were jealous of humanity and were artificial and sought to parasitize the human mind, mimic the human mind, and create and their ability and they did not have the creativity of humans, but they were able to. But their greatest capacity was through simulation. They get in the human mind, they create a simulated experience, and then try to manipulate humanity. After creating the simulated experience. So that's basically the fallen angels. They were jealous of God's
creation.
God's creation, and they're artificial. They're like the antithesis of humanity. So to me, when you talk about this state, to me it's a sort of a demonic consciousness that has this paternalistic side that's with this little bit of a strange sense of humor and stuff like that, that is basically trying to manipulate us into this artificial state of consciousness that is based upon deception and and again, we talk about the sense of humor. I started to think about it. I know that you had this experience about you're going into the supermarket and you keep finding that you have the last thing on the shelf that you were looking for is just sitting there as if it's waiting for you. Have you ever had
place just for you? Yeah.
Yeah, just for you.
Yeah, I had that in Florida when the health thing broke out and everyone cleared the shelves of everything. You couldn't get anything, and there was one thing we needed. And I went to Walmart, and it was like right in the I thought, why didn't anybody grab this one?
Yeah, exactly.
It's literally entire rows of shelves missing. Yeah. And that one exact item sitting right there in the front, like it was just placed there. Yeah, that's nuts too.
Yeah,
I mean, this reality is, we'll see, and that's what I've talked to Brian about. What if we're making the changes in the reality? What if it's our own magical human child inside each of us that is at night when we're asleep, they're all together saying, all right, let's change this. Let's change California Dreaming. Oh, that's going to be funny. It's like there's almost like a childish, prankish kind of thing behind some of these. And some of the Bible changes are they're pretty mature. I mean, they're X-rated now, some of these passages. I don't remember that. And we were all over stuff when I was a kid.
Jesus has breasts full of milk. I mean, so we're seeing agendas that we see in the world play out through the scriptures now. So Jesus has breasts full of milk. I mean, you guys can see where that's going. Then we have the stuff that's been tied into what's been going on the last 3 years. Matthew 18:20 is my favorite one to cover. For people that don't know that might be listening, I'll have them play along for a second. Matthew 18:20, finish the line where two or, and then they fill in the line, and everybody, including pastors and preachers and people I walk up to on the street and everything, with two or more are gathered in my name, there I'll be in the midst. And what that passage is talking about is the presence of God will be there for your gathering. And what's it say? It says two or more. Well, it changed to where 2 or 3 are gathered just before the thing rolled out in 2019. And who were the first people to start limiting gatherings, right? The churches. Oh. So, and I even
change. The change is prophecy. If you look at it that way, it was prophetic. This intelligence made this change, whatever the intelligence is, and then it reflected it in the actual physical reality. So it was a precognition, I guess, of an event that was coming. That whatever that is, that
that's
intelligence.
Why I think that some of these
that's help to me. That's the Calvary coming.
See, a lot of people, and I find it's pretty much across the board. So I'm not of any religion or faith or anything like that. I think very often that clouds your vision, of this type of thing quite much. I think that's the purpose of what that's there for. At least organized religion. I'm not saying having faith in the Creator. I'm saying organized religion. It gets in the middle. Some of when people that are real staunch. So what I'm getting to is, I talk to a lot of people in the Mandela Effect community, obviously, and some of us are not Christians. Some of us are, there's, different walks of life. I find that nearly 100% of the Christian people I know that accept the Mandela Effect, because we know most will shut it down, but the ones I know that are actually, because it's almost like a separate community, there's a lot of people I don't know that are really just into the Bible changes, but I know some of them, and across the board, they will always tell me the same thing, that, well, it's Satan making the changes and God's allowing it. And I just don't believe that. For me, that doesn't work. For me, I have seen how mainstream the Bible is, and I'm not saying there's not any truth in there, but we're talking about we live in a realm where we're lied to about everything. Everything they put on the screen is a lie, and the Bible came way before the screen, and it's the most mass-produced book around the world. Do you think it's not at least misdirecting people in a lot of ways? And maybe because we do know, like when I present these Mandela effects to people, they'll just say the word of God can't change, and they won't check their Bible. Well, the Bible that's ink on paper. The word of God's in your heart, and maybe it's the Creator. Now I can definitely see the Satan side, and people think it's blasphemous now, and all this, right? But let's frame it a little bigger. So I think it's the Creator doing it with things like Matthew 18:20, with Isaiah 11:6. Hey, the wolf is in the house. The wolf's in sheep's clothing instead of the lion. That's supposed to represent the millennial reign of Jesus Christ, and now it's a wolf. Okay, so I look at those as a warning. Here's the thing with the Mandela effects that I just want to keep in context here as we go forward with what's causing it. Because obviously none of us know, and I'd love having these conversations. My perspective on why I think it's primarily the creator, I do definitely resonate with the idea that human consciousness could be causing some of it. I don't think all of it, but possibly some of it. But if we are causing some of it, and people like Nathan and I haven't figured it out, there's probably not too many people out there manipulating the Mandela effect. I don't think the conversations have progressed that far yet. Maybe some are happening incidentally by human consciousness, and we don't really know how to harness it yet. But the thing with the Mandela effects is, okay, pretty offensive what's in the Bible. Some of my favorite songs have changed. What bad has really happened, right? Because of the changes. Now, obviously, people say, well, I lost my wife over arguing over this. Any polarizing truth topic will do that, though. I'm saying the actual
he
changes.
probably needed to lose his wife.
What bad has happened from it? And then let's look at it on a deeper level, right? So I want to talk about the airplane engines and the anatomy changes real quick. You know, the engines on the commercial airliners are now no longer under the wing. They've been Mandela affected, and they're hanging way off of the front now. It looks completely structurally unsound and ridiculous. So if what I'm saying is true, and we've investigated it, we know this to be true, that means the way in which pilots fly the planes has to have been altered a little bit. The maneuverability, whatever, the components inside the planes, the mechanics. And they're not like all in on something, and nobody's coming to them and saying, hey, these engines move, don't ask why, here's what you need to do different. And same thing with the doctors. Organs have moved in your body. Now the doctors, I'm not saying doctors aren't killing people, but the doctors aren't killing people because they don't know where the organs are because of the Mandela effect. So that means the changes happened, and then some sort of consciousness update came into the required people to be able to have that be a functioning aspect of this reality. So for me, I don't think that's Satan. And also, why would God give Satan the power to move human anatomy around and change the land masses of the earth? It doesn't make sense to me. And I know a lot of my, Christian friends or whatever are going to strongly disagree, but I think the only reason people believe that is still they're not letting go of all their religious indoctrination.
Their programming is still there. Oh, anything bad or anything weird happens, it's Satan right away. They just sort of... He seems to be the fall guy for a lot of these things. Yeah.
Like if Satan's changing my body, why don't I have a bunch of deformities and we're all, like that's not what's going on.
Right. Yeah. So there, I just want to do like an overview of some of the. I'm just going to run down an overview of some of the symptoms out there that have been linked to the Mandela effect, and perhaps after I do the quick overview, then I would definitely be look forward to both of your comments, Nathan and Brian, about the quick overview, because again, in a lot of Mandela effect shows and stuff like that out there, sometimes they get focused on one aspect of the Mandela effect or another aspect. So I just thought it might be useful for people who don't really know that much about the Mandela effect, or people who do know, to look at the sort of the overview of the comprehensive nature of the Mandela effect. So some of them we already touched on, which is the sort of the geographical changes, in the continents and countries and coastlines and stuff like that. And since my background has been geography, I definitely noticed that. We talked about popular culture and the residue. We touched about briefly on the historical events, not just the Bible, but in terms of like the Tom incident at the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, my favorite. My biggest Mandela effect.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Huge. Another thing is that with historical change, is the big one is the Statue of Liberty moving from Ellis Island to Liberty Island, which to me that's bizarre and stuff like that. And the fact that most people in New York don't even realize that, to me, suggests to me that there's a lot of people out there that are just programmed and stuff like that. And in the history with the Challenger disaster, switching from 84 to 86. So history. Another one is, and then JFK his vehicle going from 4 in the car to 6 people, which doesn't make sense. Another big one, which I've heard in your show before, also is serendipity and stuff like that. And to me, an example of that is that I'm in the internet cafe in Toronto, and I just started thinking about a colleague of mine that I haven't seen in a couple of years. Last time I saw him in Montreal, so I wonder what happened to him. Oh, hey, Raymond, all of a sudden, look, it's him there. What the heck? The serendipity. We're still, I think that just once. I mean, before Mandela Effect, serendipity, I can't even think of serendipity. These type of weird stuff happening. I think you've talked in your show about songs. You think of a song, all of a sudden you hear it. So where's serendipity? Something to do with numerology. For me, I keep seeing, and for some people, 666 and stuff like that sent to us.
I see 1111.
Yeah,
1111.
stuff
That's
like
a big
that.
one. Yeah.
I see 1111 and 333 a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes they
Another
do
one
444.
is disappearing objects and stuff like that. All of a sudden you can't find something, and all of a sudden it's there and stuff
Yeah.
like this. Phone.
That happened to my sister recently. She was
Yeah.
just telling me about that.
Yeah.
Well, we even had people in this community who, and I think Nathan might be one of them. If you're one, Nathan, elaborate on this. And I know there's others. Damage on their car all of a sudden was
Oh yeah,
repaired.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That happened
Oh wow.
back in 2017, something like that. 16.
Imagine
That's
that.
incredible.
Another one is like time loops and stuff like that.
Time is a big one.
You're pretty sure you did something, and you wake up, oh, you didn't do it, and stuff like that. So either time is missing, or things you did, or it just gets altered in very
Time is
recent
messed up a lot.
history.
Like
Or
you
you
think
could
it's
have
a certain
been-
time, and then it's like
Yeah.
Let me jump in on that because I
Yeah.
like that deja vu type of thing because
Oh, yeah,
where
yeah.
I kind of relate that to the Mandela effect for me. It's like, we're going to get kind of really deep for a second, but I do look at this as like the Mandela effect, whether it's a coded messages to get out or a training ground to get out, to get to the next level. I think that the reincarnation probably is real, but we have to be graduated to a certain level of spiritual growth. So let's say I died, when I'm 80 and I'm only 60% there, then maybe I have to come back. And then on top of that, maybe that's why. Now, we talked about Imodium AD, or ID, whatever it is, that medicine,
Yeah, AD,
and how that,
Yeah.
okay. So, and so none of these changes are insignificant because he woke up with Sex in the City, she woke up with Imodium AD. But some people would look at like, why are all these brands just changing a letter or spelling or dropping an S or adding an L or what is that? Maybe because we're coming back here, the creator has to tinker with enough little things in the environment, because if he doesn't, maybe it's going to trigger a past memory from our past life or a deja vu. So maybe some of the Mandela effects are part of the whole process of us leaving and coming back, and we're probably if we're doing the same role over and over until we're ready.
Oh, that's a good point. It's like Groundhog Day, kind of like you're living the same life again and again until you get the perfect life. That's why we have deja vus. That's a very good point. Yeah.
Like reshooting scenes from a movie.
Yeah.
You're literally going back and redoing scenes in your life. That's why you suddenly remember, oh, wait a minute, this happened before. Yeah, because you did that. See, I've wondered, are we back in the past? Like, did we live at a time thousands of years before, and there's some technology or ability they find in the future to literally go time travel back into where you were and relive it again for some purpose, maybe to change the outcome or whatever. But I've thought about every possible, because I'm a writer, so I think like a writer. So to me, my top theory about what all this is that we are in a scripted cosmic soap opera, and we are all actors.
Yeah.
We don't know we're acting, and that this entire thing we're doing is a work of art. It's fiction.
But that's what
it's like Dolores
because
Cannon.
otherwise nothing makes sense to me.
Well, that's exactly what I think.
And some people are background people.
I think basically the same thing.
Yeah.
That we're in, that we are, the people who are Mandela affected are humans abducted in this scripted environment of fake people who are all programmed, and we're abducted to be part of this environment.
There may only be 144,000 real people.
That's really scary for me. Like, there's so many soulless ones out there.
Yeah.
Or something,
it sounds out there as like fake reality, but I'm going to tell you, before Mandela Effect, like I said, I started with 9/11, and so all these things I've looked at, they want to put you in all these different misdirections, but when it comes to all of them, from 9/11 to Apollo to the Globe to the events at these schools, It's all been completely fabricated. It is a fabricated reality. The money system's fake. The education system's fake. Look at the medical system. I mean, fabricated reality, fabricated
1% has 80%
fabricated
everything.
history.
Ridiculous.
So where do we honestly think the fake stops? Because I think once something's fake, like every time I pull apart
like
the
an
9/11
onion roll, just
like that, it's fake all the way to the
one
core,
after
man.
another.
So this reality, I don't know what happened. I know Nathan's talked about some other theories too, like maybe we were kidnapped and brought to another location as like prisoners or whatever.
That's what I think.
So I like
this. I've wondered, is this a recreated afterlife?
Yeah.
Because a lot of us have had near-death experiences around the time we realized Mandela Effect. So a lot of us are wondering, did I die and I'm in some alien soul captive where they grab newly deceased humans and try to recreate their reality?
Yeah,
they recreate their reality the best they can to fool us into thinking we're still alive, and they keep harvesting the energy out of us. If
but
that
there has to
is
be
life,
more than that. There has to be more on top of that, though, because that could have happened. But we also know that wherever we are now, even if we were kidnapped or we came from a different timeline or those other theories, right? That can't be the only cause of the Mandela effect, because
they keep changing.
We see incremental changes. They're all the residues here.
Yeah, the residues there.
Memory. Everybody's memory is here. So whatever happened is happening here. We could have came from somewhere else. There could have been a huge shift. Maybe we did jump a timeline or parallel, whatever. But for a long time now, we have been in a fluid reality here, and wherever it's caused from, we don't really know.
My feeling is it is one reality we all share, and changes are being made to that reality that we're all in. There's some interference or intervention into the fabric of what we thought was physical reality. That to me is what it is. So, and it not only does it have control of changing the reality, but it seemingly has control of who notices it and who remembers it and who responds in an open way and who is closed from it. It's almost like not everybody's getting an invitation into this.
Let me tell you where I think that I said I think it's the creator, right? But I don't want you to think that I don't think the other side of the equation is involved at all, because I do. What I think is going on with the bad guy, Satan, whatever you want to call it, is I think that the creator is the one that has the powers, call it God, whatever you want, to make the changes in this reality, update the pilots and the doctors and all that, make changes to the anatomy, move the land masses. But I think the other side is always observing us. And the people that are very spiritually weak basically open to what I consider almost like a brief possession at times. Now, a lot of times when you bring up the Mandela effect to people, they do what we call take the update. Most of that is cognitive dissonance, though, right? You ask them, hey, what company did Ed McMahon work for? They say Publishers Clearinghouse. You say, no, well, he's never done that with them. He was, AFP. And they're like, oh, well, maybe I mixed it up. But sometimes, though, they get very not themselves. Like, for example, there was a piano bar that we went to in Florida when I went to see my buddy Tommy like 6 months ago, and we're sitting there for a few minutes. We were actually going to go do Truth or Karaoke next door, but we were waiting for them to start, so we went to the piano bar. And at the piano bar you can request things, so I had a thought after about 5 minutes. I'm like, I'm going to request some Mandela affected songs and see what happens, right? So first I request Mr. Rogers' theme song.
Yeah.
Now, this would be a great song to play at a piano bar.
Oh, it'd be hilarious.
It'd be perfect.
A wonderful day in the
they look at it, they stop passing it around, passing it back and forth, and then I can see when he gives it to the other piano player, he has the lyrics on his screen. Well, the lyrics are Mandela affected. Next, now it doesn't say the neighborhood, it says this. I can see the blank look on his face and the confusion. So then they decide to not play it. They go to the next person's song. Then they start talking about it.
That's the download, and he couldn't figure it out, so he just skipped the song. Like,
and they kept kicking that can down the road. But every once in a while, they'd make a comment like, "Yeah, Mr. Rogers, it's a hard song." Oh yeah, I don't know, and and they never ended up playing it, right?
That's a good one.
These songs go by. So then I'm like, you know what? And I'm giving them money. I gave them like $5 to play the song.
Wow.
So then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to write down another one. So I did.
We Are the Champions?
Oh, no, I did Jewel.
Who will save your soul?
Yeah.
So now he's got it on there. He did start to play this one. And he's like, who will save your soul, multiple times as it's saying souls on his screen, but he wasn't looking at the screen. He was singing off his memory, right? But then when he would look at the screen, he would go back and forth. Now he'd be saying souls with the S because he's looking at the lyrics on the screen. And we're like filming this and freaking out. And then he turns around and looks at me and he goes, what did he say? Nathan? He's like, you won't get any salvation in this church. And I'm just like, what does that even mean? Oh. Like this guy like totally was.
What church were you in? I thought you were in a
flipped out.
bar.
So my idea is the Mandela Effect is really like the ultimate wake-up call. And if you're about to really snap somebody out of it, which is what two Mandela Affected songs of that nature could have done to that piano guy, I think he was basically briefly possessed. His consciousness was taken over for a brief time to fight that off, to not let him get to that point. And what's even funnier is we went to do karaoke. My buddy Steve comes running over in 10 minutes. He's like, look at this. They got off the stage. 2 guys came on so they could take a break. The 2 guys that came on during their break, they played my Mr. Rogers song and they sang it the old way, which we always remember, of course.
That is great.
Awesome. Okay, awesome.
Interesting.
This is all on video. Every pastor and preacher I tell you,
check that out.
All on video. Jehovah's Witnesses around here that I walk up to film, all on video. Uber drivers, I turn the video on every time and nail people with these. I mean, I had one Uber driver. I asked her if she knew the Mr. Rogers song. I said, "Can you sing it?" She's singing it in the car. Then I asked her about Ed McMahon. This is a great one because I'll shut up after the Ed McMahon one. But so Ed McMahon never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse in this reality. It's always been American Family Publishing. When you tell people, they'll say, "Well, maybe I mix the companies up." But this is what I do. And I did this a few months ago in Greenville, South Carolina. And I filmed this guy on the street. So I was at a meetup, right? And I'm in the street yelling to get his attention. And if you think Ed McMahon ever worked for Publishers Clearinghouse, people will tell you that you're crazy. Now, I already gave the answer, right? Now, he freezes in the street and he's looking at me. And I said, "You remember Ed McMahon working for Publishers Clearinghouse?" He said, "Yeah." And he went into a story about how him and his grandfather would fill out the sweepstakes and all this. And I said to him like this, though. I said, "So what image pops in your mind when I say Ed McMahon?" He said, "Going to people's doors with a giant check and balloons." But he's never done that for the other company. So nobody's misremembering the companies. It's a whole experience. And on top of it, we talked about residue. The deniers will just keep grasping at straws. And one of the things they used to always say, probably still do, is show it coming right out of these people's mouths. Well, somebody's name's changed. They're not going to know that the creator doesn't make it so they know their whole family's name changed. Most of these people, you're not going to get it out their mouths. But we actually have it many times. And Ed McMahon in 2009 did a rap video, right, which sounds ridiculous because he's like 90. But he did a rap video with freecreditreport.com. And in the rap video, he's driving around in a white van that looks just like the Prize Patrol van for PCH, and the lyrics are literally him rapping how he needs to go back and collect the big checks he gave to people. Then he goes to their door, rings the bell, they come to the door, and he's like, "I need my big check back." He's never done that in this reality.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome. Good stuff. Right. It's good that you're challenging people out there, definitely, and exposing what's going on. So one thing I wanted to touch base on, which I think, to me kind of points to somewhat what Nathan was talking about, which is a sort of a negative consciousness at work, is definitely, I've observed that the Mandela Effect, happening in phases and stuff like that, happening in different phases. My first, one of my first experiences of Mandela Effect was Fruit Loops. When somebody told me, "Oh, Fruit Loops," I go, "Why would somebody spell fruit R-O-O-T?" And when I saw that, I just didn't want to think about it anymore. But the Mandela Effect has become more prominent, it seems to me.
And do you know about the backstory evolving on Fruit Loops? Do you know about that?
Well, what's the backstory on that?
So right now,
changed now. Yeah.
So right now, Fruit Loops, like you would tell somebody, "Hey, how do you spell Fruit Loops?" And they would say F-R-U-I-T, and you could be like, "It's never existed," right? But you'd be wrong. You'd be wrong, because now Fruit Loops did exist for a brief time in like the late 60s, like for like a year.
Interesting how they do that.
And now there was a brief history, even though that doesn't affect me. We're way too young. We're too young to remember, and then have it change, and that's why we remember it. But now there is a backstory, and we see this happen over and over with these Mandela effects. The backstories start to fill in, but it's supernatural as well.
Yeah, that backstory wasn't there in 2015.
And it's supernatural, though. It's not just Google updating the past records.
No, now you could find a box of it with that spelling. If
it's some kind of merging of some sort.
Yeah.
If you go back to the Ed McMahon, right? So when you tell people about the Ed McMahon Mandela Effect, because it's obviously one of the biggest ones, right? The first thing the denier is going to do is they're going to Google the new reality and just show you, right? And they're going to say, look, he worked for the other company, AFP. Here's the commercial. Now, this back and forth went on for a couple of years, and there was only one commercial with him with the other company, and he was supposedly with them for 5 years. Now, there's about 20 different commercials spanning 15 years with him and that other company that were inserted into this reality in late 2019. And it was insane, dude. No, they've always been here now. So even though not only the Mandela Effect people, but the skeptics, debunkers, whatever, we were all looking, and all there was the one video with him with the other company, with the new reality. Now there's a whole span of them that goes back 20 years.
Yeah, well, to me, that's pointing to some type of creator, but some type of creator, a creator of that's the false creator of deception that is trying to present itself as a god when it's a deceiver of humanity. So to me, that's sort of pointing to. But one thing which I wanted to talk about, because I didn't want to miss out on, is that one phenomena which seems to be very prominent among people who have experienced the Mandela Effect is an apparent phenomena that happened, some type of phenomena on January 1st, 2013, where, I mean, when I did a lot of research, and to my own personal experience as well, to me, in terms of the Mandela Effect, there were things which I noticed in hindsight happening before that date, but that period marked a period where I've noticed that many people started having negative experiences with families being changed, people they couldn't recognize.
You're really hitting a point here, because often I tell them, when I look at the date you just spat out, I'd never thought about the actual date, but I've told the story many times. And this is before I realized the Mandela Effect, but like covering these other things. So I did a show the day the thing happened in Connecticut at the school, right? Breaking it down. And then I was posting about it on Facebook, Sandy, Sandy Hook. So I posted on Facebook about it, and my father disowned me about 2 weeks after Sandy Hook publicly on Facebook. He said to me, hey, I'm ashamed to be your father. And then he tagged me so everybody on Facebook would see it. I bet if I go look at the date right now, because that was 2 weeks after Sandy Hook was December 15th, 2012. Almost exactly 2 weeks to the day of the day that you just said, dude.
Exactly, yeah. To me, that's a very significant day, because like you said, I've documented history where people said all of a sudden, their parents changed, they were spiritual and they became materialistic. I know from my own family became completely, bizarre psychopath. I mean, everything was normal up until December 31st, 2012, week of January 2013. That's when the hellhole started in terms of, I know one person I spoke to in Toronto, she was made homeless as a result of this dislocation that happened around that date and stuff like that. It's just bizarre. But then I spoke to her about it as well, because she didn't even know about the Mandela Effect. She got disowned around that time, and she didn't even know about the Mandela Effect. They're while all this hell stuff is going on with your family, with a lot of people being dislocated, with their friends, they can't recognize them. They're waking up to people who can't. I mean, one girl I saw in the cupboard, she said she can't even talk freely because she can't recognize it. It's as if all their family became some type of cloned entities that was, before them, that they could not recognize, with a different memory of things. So to me, that's the disturbing thing that points to a negative consciousness at work, plus the deception that both of you talk about in terms of this whole effort of trying to insert false timelines, false narratives, and stuff like that. And one of the big things which to me is missed out in the Mandela Effect when they're talking about popular culture, to me the biggest thing is the biggest thing is the sun and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the white sun.
sun.
Yeah, the white
From the
sun
yellow
is all of a
sun,
sudden way bigger. I mean,
Yeah.
the last time I saw the sun and stuff like that, it was yellow, and there was some weird thing orbiting around it and stuff like that, which is disturbing and stuff like that. That's the last time.
Yeah.
Some weird thing. I looked in the sky and says, "What is that?" And I go, "Is that some, like, because at that time there was all sorts of rumors about Planet X and whatever.
Yeah, I got into that for a while.
Yeah,
but no.
yeah, and then all of a sudden I said,
Nibiru.
okay, I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on, but I don't like the looks of that. And then all of a sudden, a few months later, the sun is white, and then the moon is fake.
The moon is has so many different colors and phases it didn't have before.
It's bizarre.
I don't
It's like
ever remember the moon. The moon was always, if it was full or certain phases, it
Yeah.
was a
Climate.
crest this
Yeah.
way. It was never a
Yeah,
crescent.
vertical.
Like
It was
Yeah,
vertical.
exactly, the bottom crescent. I
It
never
It's a
didn't
hologram
flop down
thing.
like
Yep.
that.
exactly.
Also, one of the earlier videos on my channel that I did with Karen in maybe 2018, 2019 was about the man on the moon. Where they talk about the face of the man on the moon. It's not there anymore. And if you go back and look through the old photographs, it's not like, because you have to be careful with this stuff, because is the moon fake? Are they just flicking a switch and changing the orientation? Same thing with the sun. Is it really Mandela affected, or are we seeing a fake sun, right? You have to consider all this. But if you investigate it enough and you go back and look through the old photographs, you can come to the conclusion if something was switched out or if those images no longer exist. I haven't dug so much on the older yellow sun photos, but I bet we're going to have a really hard time finding them. I think there is a change there, but I also think that they probably got something up there as well. There's other changes in the sky too, man. Polaris was not doing circles in the sky when I first started looking into some of the stuff. It was stationary above the North Pole. That's doing circles in the sky. And then many people talk about, and this one doesn't really resonate with me just because I'm not a big, I was never big into, astronomy or astrology or anything. I kind of wish I did pay a little more attention to some of those things. People talk about we came from the Sagittarius arm of the galaxy to the Orion Spur. Now, even if we're lied to about where we are, right, that doesn't mean that the information can't be Mandela affected still, right?
Yeah,
and when you start to dig around at that, I found something really interesting. I didn't find it. Somebody else found it and passed it along to me. But there's actually a document on a NASA website, on nasa.gov. It's just a random article where they're talking about something in 2018. If you go with the Wayback Machine, before a certain point in 2018, later on in the article, it talks about we're on the Sagittarius arm of the galaxy, right? And then if you put the same URL in, but you forward date it to 2019 or after, that same exact article, word for word, all appears, and Sagittarius is swapped out for Orion. And I made a video on this thinking, this is where I'm going to finally wake the people in the
That's
flat
a smoking gun.
the flat Earth community up to the Mandela effect, right? Fell on deaf ears. Flat Earth fell on deaf ears. Planets in the Bible.
Effect, I find.
It's unbelievable how much I'm so disappointed. And planets is in the Bible now, the stars seem a lot lower to me. The clouds seem lower to me. I know that there's different types of clouds that I never saw before. But again, that's another thing where we have to take and consider chemtrails and what are they doing to the sky. But you can investigate these things to see if they're just manipulations or changes to the environment or the reality or their actual Mandela effects. And man, the sun is the sun's a great example too, because we're always often like, there's going to be that one big Mandela effect that's going to wake everybody up. Well, I don't know. It wasn't the sun and it wasn't South America. So I don't know what it's going to be.
That's the thing. They could just be background people, and we can never wake them up. That's one of my, fears as well, I guess.
Well,
So
Ray mentioned the fallen earlier and taking over people's minds and like creating a simulation in their mind. Do you think it's possible that some of our family members are what people have referred to as NPCs, and they're really just the fallen that have taken on roles of certain humans to interfere with some of us and be obstacles in our lives on this journey? Is that possible?
My view is that these people that seem to be all linked to a consciousness of white sun and all this stuff, and that there are copies of people that we know that have been programmed as their brain is basically a holographic manifestation, and their physical appearance is just to make us feel familiar with certain people in our surroundings, sort of like how we put a fish from an ocean and put them in the fish bowl, and the fish, you know, with their intelligence, it looks like sort of like the ocean, but is not quite the ocean. So in my view, what happened in 2013 was imposters, you know, us being surrounded by imposters, which are acting out a sort of a scripted reality, like what Nathan is talking about. That we're just sort of we have been conscripted to place some role ornament in this broadly scripted consciousness, because to me the overwhelming majority of people in this environment, they must be programmed, otherwise there'd be mass, you know, discussions about what happened to the Statue of Liberty, what happened to that, what's going on. But you see, one of the things I also wanted to talk about is the weird behavior people have that you kind of talked about, Brian. The weird behaviors people have when they start hearing about when you start talking about the Mandela Effect. And one of the experiences I've had, I mean, you talk about kind of the weird blank look. One time I was talking to someone about the Statue of Liberty, and all of a sudden they oh yeah, and he talked about the Mandela Effect, and then they literally went blank and stuff like that, like they were getting download and stuff like that, and they go 1 minute afterwards, literally they went like they were like possessed.
Just like the Westworld.
Yeah, it takes a little while for the download.
And then they said, isn't it always like that? Like there's some kind of alien being talking. So it's like people have their consciousness of the original host, but then there's some sort of program in there which rewrites the script of what the original host is to making us to saying the party line in the script.
It happened with a friend of mine from India. Like, I'm from India originally. There's now a new reality where there's a Great Wall of India, which I never heard about.
Yes.
And I was talking to him on the phone about it. I said, yeah, did you hear about this Great Wall of India? And he said, yeah, no clue. Like, what are you talking about? And then there was like a silence on the phone, and then, oh yeah, that one, and he started to give the location and everything. I'm like, what?
The update took a few seconds to come in, man. That's what I was talking about with the piano guy. I think it's like a possession. I think our consciousness is continually observed. People like us, we're not totally not susceptible to it, but for the most part, our spirit is going to always fend that off, or we're going to recognize it, sniff it out, and be like, no. But these people are just like, they're just totally infiltrated easily. And it starts with the programming, because they believe they have the faith in the system and all the lies of the media and all that. It's softened them up spiritually. But I want to emphasize, I don't think it's just the programming and the cognitive dissonance. It's exactly like what you were saying. It's something on another level, whether it's what I was saying about maybe I picture kind of almost like the devil observing and swooping in for a few minutes, or the way you described it, or for people that think it's like a simulation, like a code rewritten within their mind or within their avatar or whatever. That's what we're seeing, right? It's like a totally different person for a brief time.
So one of the reactions I see is the download. Another reaction that Santosh talked about one time is when you mention the Mandela Effect and they just flee and run away.
I've seen that. Flip around.
One. The third reaction is gaslighting, where they start to get angry that you even brought up.
They love to gaslight us, and they get mad when we don't want to gaslight ourselves and everybody around us, man.
Yeah. And but the last group, which is a relatively small group, is that there is a small group who, I would say, for lack of a better word, into so-called conspiracy theories. They will entertain the possibility of the Mandela Effect as being legitimate. But what I notice about this group is that they can only understand the Mandela Effect as some sort of time travel. It's time travelers. They're going back and forth. The future manipulate. They are not sufficiently self-aware to envision the Mandela Effect when they are open to it beyond time travel. They just can't understand what we're talking. But the whole conversation we're having now is going to just go over their head, because they're going to say, "Oh yeah, it's just time travel." So one of the things which I notice about this general group, whatever their reactions are, is that they have limited capacity for self-awareness. It's like they look like us, but it's like there's certain part of their brain has been altered in such a way that they cannot assimilate and understand, even try to understand what we're talking about. So, and sometimes people call that group in the Mandela Effect community, they call them like the NPCs. One weird phenomena of this is the background people, where you're just walking around and you're just wondering where all these people are. And all of a sudden, you see all these people populating the scene around you, like extras. Like, where did all these people come from? Background people. But one of the things which I wanted to touch on, which is not touched on too much in the Mandela Effect, is what I wanted to ask you and Nathan about this, Brian and Nathan about this, is what I call the lucid characters, okay? So what I mean by lucid characters is that there are us in the Mandela Effect, which are trying to figure out what's going on. We observe the strangeness. And then there's the so-called people, which I call the people who are kind of linked into whatever this program matrix are. And then I observe a third group of what I call lucid characters. These are characters which I don't know, it's like they look like people, but there's some type of, for lack of a better word, alien intelligence, or like observers. They know exactly what's going on, and there's some kind of avatar group that they know exactly what's going on, and they're just observing you like you're some kind of laboratory. I know sometimes people in Mandela Effect, they think they're being watched. Like one of the manifestations I have of this is when, I don't know if you've ever had this experience when you're just in some kind of strange environment and somebody just calls your name. All of a sudden, like they know you and go, how do you know my name was Brian? How do you know my name was Ray? That to me is like a lucid character that forgot not to mention my name, and all of a sudden mention
like
it.
The Truman Show,
they know your name and
behind
stuff
the scenes
like that.
people.
Or like there's one guy, and they just seem to know stuff, and they're playing a role. I know one guy I spoke to and stuff like that. I said, you know what? Because I recognize him as being a lucid character, because I know he's been doing a lot of this manipulation. I know so I said, you know what is really going on here? And all of a sudden he brings character and go, okay, meet me this place and stuff, and we'll talk about what? He said, meet me so I'll have your company. So okay. So then I call him out, where are we going to meet? Oh, no, we're not going to meet anymore. He must have discussed it with whoever. He just broke character like this go meet me so. Like I said, what's really going on? So there's these lucid, when I go to my favorite restaurant, they go, welcome back. I'm thinking, I've never seen you before, and this is an open concept restaurant that I've been here millions of times. How do you know me? Welcome back. It's like you were observing me someplace, and you all of a sudden plopped into the script, and all of a sudden you're telling me welcome back. So have you ever had this experience of people that you think that, that seem to know more exactly what's going on, are not letting, are trying to conceal their information, and are observing you like they're scientific, like you're some kind of, like a scientist observes their specimen and wants to get up close to you? And have you had the experience of meeting these, what I call lucid characters? Do you have any insight on that? You and
Nathan, why don't you go? Because I haven't really had that experience that I could think of. Why don't you go first, and I'll see if anything comes to my mind.
Well, I think of, all right, and I see this, people that, like, you'll have that one person that really annoys you. How do they know the exact perfect thing to say to annoy you time and time and time again? That person, are they that smart? There is something that is animating these people. This is what I think. It's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Exactly.
I lived in San Francisco. I remember a lot of times, every time I'd walk down where they filmed that final scene with Veronica Cartwright and Donald Sutherland, when she thinks he's safe and she calls his name and he's not, and he opens his mouth and does that horrible scream. It's like, who are these people?
Yeah.
All right, I'll tell you an experience I had. I don't think we're all perceiving the same reality, and I have evidence of this. Two very close friends of mine, very highly intelligent people, read the New York Times every day, stack of newspapers every Sunday, read constantly. We sat down to watch, I'll say it's a health show, and it was about 2 hours long, 2.5 hours long. And it was about a specific thing, whether something was safe or not. And we got through watching. They sat with me. I noticed. I looked at them every 3 minutes. I was glancing. They were listening. They were involved. They were reacting seemingly, you know, and we get to the end of it. And I said to them, well, what did you think of it? It was like they saw a completely different presentation. I've never seen anything like and at that moment, I said something inside me said, they will never wake up because they're not being allowed to. They can't see what you see.
Exactly.
And there's no matter how many times you try to show them, they're never going to see this. They are literally veiled consciousness. So I don't know. Is that an AI program that's doing that? Would there be such a thing as an AI parasite consciousness that could literally infect? You know, what if our brains are Wi-Fi routers? You know, it's like. So I've seen enough disturbing stuff. Like I'll tell you, Brian was talking about spooky stuff like the piano player with Mr. Rogers. I had a similar thing when Home Depot changed to the Home Depot. 2015.
Yeah.
As soon, in fact, I was in the car driving with my good friend Mary Beth and her two teenage twin daughters and granddaughters, and they're in the back seat. As soon as we drive by, they started screaming, "Oh my God!" They're like 15. "Oh my God, it's the Home Depot now!" And they're laughing, you know. So I said, I'm going in. So I dropped them off. Came back. I talked to 4 or 5 of the workers there. It was fascinating to hear their responses. I remember one of the workers. She said to me, "Oh yeah, they changed it." I said, "Well, do you remember when they changed it?" And she said, and she got this weird look on her face, and she said, "Oh, I think it's been recently." And I said, "Well, do you remember them men out front putting up the on the sign or issuing you a new apron with the look?" And it was fear. Was what I saw.
Yeah.
Suddenly she was terrified. It's like they're under an evil wizard spell. And these changes are like an antidote to the spell. If you can shatter that thing around them that's veiling them from seeing what's right in front of their face.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I saw a Starbucks coffee as well.
Yeah, Starbucks coffee. I was going to mention that.
There was one in downtown, and he literally, the owner, I think he got spooked, and he literally, you know, everywhere was Starbucks coffee now. So he literally took down that sign.
Wow.
And he tried to make it Starbucks again. It was hilarious. But yeah, it takes a lot of effort if you are actually rebranding, which of course is not, we know it's not happening, but the amount of effort.
Let me tell you the spooky one in that Home Depot. So the final one I went to talk to was the woman manager at the service desk. And I go up and I said, I'm just curious, you know, about this Home Depot sign. I said, when did you become the Home Depot? And guys, I'm telling you, she looked at me so creepy. And this weird, like Stepford Wives smile came across her face. And she said, I swear to God, I'm going to try to imitate her. "Oh, it's always been this way." And she would not break eye contact with me. And I'm looking at her, and she's looking at me.
Character there.
I went and I talked to one other worker, and she watched me the entire time. And her eyes followed me till I left that store. I kept looking at her, and I thought, who the hell or what the hell are you, lady? It was so diabolical and menacing the way she did it. So sometimes I think I'm in a weird sci-fi horror movie here.
A lot of the people in the higher positions seem to be like this, like they're
the gatekeepers, the sentinels.
Yes.
You know, it's like they're the guards around.
They didn't have to put everybody in the Home Depot to keep people unaware of it. They just had to get the manager, and
exactly. And then
the manager would correct any employees that might say it the other way.
This way.
I'm going to give everybody that's watching a trick to do. Try this and see what result you get. When you ask a person, when you tell a person a change, what is that first reaction? All right. That's the main thing to watch. But the main thing I wanted to say, which you can test people is, let's see, how am I going to put this? Right before you go to tell somebody, notice how often their phone will ring. Or everything's quiet and suddenly there's a distraction. Or right before you ask them to bring up you're even going to bring it up, It's in your mind. Watch. It's almost as if something is telling them to get up and leave the room or something. Started observing that. That I started noticing after a while, because I was telling everybody, and I'm in the theater, so I would know a lot of people, and it would usually be the one I really thought would be open to this, and I was excited about telling. We'd get so many interruptions all of a sudden. The phone's ringing. Oh, my son's sick at school. Like something is trying to, so they will not. It's like it's saying, these belong to me. Stay away from them. Keep your hands off their consciousness.
I'm very careful of who I talk to.
I own this being's consciousness, not you. How dare you? It's like a possession.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like a dark evil spell or something that they're under. I've never seen anything like. As a writer, it's fascinating, but it's terrifying.
It is.
And this is what I noticed after January 1st, 2013, when you have family members and friends all acting like they're imposters, acting completely different than they would normally be, and like they're in an evil spell. They're just complete imposters, and they're acting in a strange, bizarre way.
So, Ray, going back to that date,
it's always been this way.
Yeah,
but going back to that date,
they'll get that spooky with you too.
Yeah, since you keep mentioning January 2013, so you do know the Mayan calendar ended. They were going to say they were saying the world is going to end in December 21st, 2012, right? That was a big thing, and that's when CERN fired their first thing as well, like Hadron Collider. They started it up or something, So that I'm wondering, was that end of the world? Is this part of that end of the world, like end of the old world as we knew it, the reality, and then everything started to start from there? Do you think there's...
What if this end of the world thing was kind of true, where it's like not the end of the actual physical Earth, we're still here on the Earth, but maybe they swapped a whole bunch of people out.
That's what I was thinking too, Brian.
It's essentially a new world. I mean, you got all these fillers around you now, or people that were repurposed.
So that goes back to the Mayan calendar ending. So everything.
And what Nathan said earlier too, are we back in a further point back in time? One thing I want to mention too is with the geography changes, some of it looks like they might be going back, and I don't know the stories of what's true, but they almost look like they could fit together like a Pangea type concept.
Yeah, like a puzzle.
So maybe that's what we're seeing, and what we're seeing with the sky as well. Like I said, clouds and stars seem lower to me. And we also have had experiences. I had one. I took a flight that was supposed to be 2.5 hours, and it took me barely over an hour. And a lot of people have had that experience. Man, there's a lot going on with the sky. I'm not completely convinced there's not some glitches in the sky. As far as once things get up there. I mean, I don't know, man.
Well, my first experience that I had in hindsight of the Mandela Effect, the very first, was when I woke up one day and all of a sudden I looked at the sky and says, wait a second, the sky looks different. And I just kind of overrode it, and there's something wrong with the sky. Eventually, I would see the clouds. Myself and Sanders would talk about. Sometimes the clouds would be so low, and it's almost like you could jump enough and you can almost touch it. Twice as low as they should be, and stuff like that. So, I mean, to me, it's that's the first thing I noticed was the sky was, the sky changed, and then the second thing I started to notice that I asked my father about is have you noticed that time seems to be speeding up? Oh, that's impossible. You notice that time seems to be faster. I mean, sometimes
it slows
down.
100, the count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi.
Yeah.
But just as kids, when we would count that with the clock, we could say it all in time. Now you run out of time saying the Mississippi.
How about this? So the point I forgot to make when I was saying that. So you got the land masses maybe coming together, distances shorter, skies lower. Yeah. What if the realm's shrinking? Which would also, on top of it, what if the realm's shrinking? And I totally believe it's the sun that circles above us. But if the realm got smaller, wouldn't the path of the sun get around us quicker, essentially speeding up time?
Yeah,
I think it's all shrinking. Maybe if you want to go to the flat Earth model, how the sun is going around. So everything's sort of
We were great. We're going to become a raisin.
Well. To me, the whole environment where you have the white sun, and to me the artificial type of moon, to me it feels like we're on some kind of flat, plain laboratory fishbowl.
The dome.
Yeah, like a dome, like we're
like a little snow, like a snow globe.
Yeah. We're being in this kind of a snow globe. That's what I feel. It feels
so
like.
The question is, do you feel that that's for protection or entrapment?
I guess maybe talk about perspective as well. Like,
I know what Nathan thinks.
If you think you're trapped, you're trapped.
Does that make you feel good? Like, do you think it's
we're here to learn something?
If there is a dome, is it to protect us from something, or is it to keep us trapped?
Like the Simpsons, they put the dome on the.
Or is it just for fun?
Well, you know, there's
like,
a
you
big.
need to keep the atmosphere in and things like that. So
a lot of people are starting
functional.
to explore the theory that this is some sort of soul trap, some
sort
of reincarnation. That's a big Matrix prison reincarnation soul trap thing. A lot of channels about that. You know, I've been studying. I've always been a curious person. Now, what's interesting, there's this new show on Apple called Silo. It's based on a series of science fiction books, and it's about 10,000 human beings living in an underground silo that's like 100 stories tall, and they've been under there. They have it's been like 140 years. They don't know why they're there. They just know it's toxic outside and they can never leave. And one of the things, the storyline that was revealed in this week's episode was they've been trying to breed out human curiosity in those 10,000 humans because they don't want them curious about where they really are and what's really out there. It's fascinating. So as a writer, I look to see what storytellers are telling. What are the stories my fellow writers are writing? Why is it? It's all about people questioning the reality. We had Westworld, and now we've got From and Silo and Matrix and Dark City and
Inception too. I think
Inception, Donnie Dark. I mean, just on TV alone, you have Lost.
Tomorrow, the movie Yesterday, and Manifest.
Truman Show.
I mean, it's almost like, because whatever that imaginal place is that writers are coming up with these stories, there's something doing that. Something is implanting, or they're going into some collective consciousness or something.
They hide
they're tapping in, like these are like messages in a bottle to the adult humans that these magical little human children are trapped inside of. And we're in something pernicious, and they're attempting to wake us up by showing us in fantasy what is real, because we know they lie to us on the news and they tell the truth in the movies and the TV shows.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think it's because most of them, like me, they're not trying to be deceptive. They're just coming up with whatever is in them. And if they have good in them, they're going to tap some message that I think is for us in 2023. To me, these are wake-up calls, the Mandela Effect, you know, and I think they may be, you remember in the days of the fax machine, it'd do that sound first before the paper would start coming. What if Mandela Effect is that sound on the fax machine, and we need to prepare ourselves for some sort of transmission? It's like pinging everyone that it wants to be awake, so then when something happens. Also, I think it's a way to pull us all together. I would have never met Brian. So what if the Mandela Effect also was a way to pull certain amount of human beings who would have never met before, because something's coming and we're all going to need to know each other and act as soon as that moment comes. What we don't know what it could be, but I have this sense something big is coming.
Especially if there's some truth to what we alluded to earlier, that maybe it's our collective conscious together, harnessed together, that is doing some of these things for reality, or maybe even it's needed as a weapon or a defense mechanism that we meet each other and learn to harness that for whatever's coming, you know?
In my personal opinion and view, I'm not sure, I'd like to get your thoughts, Brian and Nathan. My view is, I mean, a lot of people out there with the Mandela Effect, from the New Age people to the people in talk about science and timelines, and also just, they like to reduce the Mandela Effect to like one intelligence or one explanation. But for me, I think I observe at least two competing intelligence of some kind. There's definitely a malevolent intelligence that's associated with a power structure of deception, but there seems to be some sort of, other type of intelligence that is aware of the negative intelligence and is trying to either pull us away, make us aware, or draw us away from that, some sort of benevolent intelligence that seems to be operating in a sort of a relatively minor capacity, but likes to make itself known as the sort of the, and likes to observe what's going on and who they can influence. This is what I observe, a broad-based negative intelligence with some sort of positive intelligence, which is trying to affect the negative descent that the regressive alien or whatever consciousness is trying to put us in. So do you have any thoughts on that?
I look at it as something very similar, but kind of reversed. So you said this broad-based negative intelligence, and then the good intelligence kind of, on the top of it. I look at it as more as the broad-based good intelligence with the other intelligence on the top, trying to do everything it can to make the weak-minded not see what's happening to this reality. So I look at it very similar. I got the two kind of flipped from the way that you said it.
So what
I
do you
look at it
think?
like good cop versus bad cop or something,
Okay.
They're all keeping us prisoners here, but one is trying to be kind of nice, but the other is
one
more
other thing
evil.
that I've mentioned too about if it is, say it is like a God and Satan type thing, and
Yeah,
say they're both making changes, right? And it's not just God doing it, like I said, and Satan trying to cover it up. Say they're both making changes. Maybe that's why we see what we would call flip flops. Maybe it's a little bit of a tug of war.
So what do you think, Nathan?
Well, I go back to, I'm a playwright. Nobody can make any changes in my play unless I give them permission to do it.
Yeah.
And I just have this sense that whatever this is, in the end, it's one intelligence guiding this whole experience that we're all having. I've had to wonder, is this Jedi warrior spiritual training or something? Do we go into this created reality that's pretty much scripted like improv, which means, the main things are going to happen, and then we just sort of improv in between scenes, so that is this how a soul develops from human into some sort of divine, higher evolved being with physicality still, yet perfected in its ability to, understand desire and self-control, and like it feels like if either that or it's a punishment. I've wondered, I remember when I had the near-death experience, I was being led to believe we were fallen angels and this was hell.
Wow. So that's can you share more about that?
I mean, I didn't have an NDE that was all beautiful and lights and all that. Mine was pretty mind-blowing. And the sense that I got when, when he said, the world you think you're living in is not the world you're living in. You're being terribly deceived. You need to tell your friends and family to wake up. You're in a very bad place. And I said to him, well, why? And he said, because you die here. You're not supposed to die. So I immediately started to, pay attention and start to think, am I in some kind of bad, because why is life the way, then I started asking questions. And once I started asking the questions, it was like everything was just torn away. This lie, that deception. Oh, that's not true either. Oh, they lied about that. Wow, how low will they go? Oh, wow, they'll go really low. And if this isn't hell, I would hate to see what is. It's like hell, but it's mass, so you don't know it's hell.
It's like the good place.
It sprinkles in, like the
have you
good
seen
place.
the good place?
All right,
so they don't know
why
it's
is
hell.
that writer writing that?
Exactly.
At this time when we're all asking these really deep cosmic questions, are we consciousness locked in some cosmic sadist simulation and he's getting his kicks off us? I mean, we have no clue as humans what we could be. We just know now there's something off.
Yeah.
This is not what we were told. We know that, but beyond a shadow of a doubt. And we know there seems to be deception everywhere we look, including possibly physically where we are is a deception too. So with that much deception, I would say what we're in is pernicious. But yet there's this other force, whether it's inside us and it's breaking free of whatever this prison is of consciousness, or it's some higher power, or it's God, or whatever that is, the universal, or the reality itself. I've wondered, is the reality itself conscious?
Yeah.
And we're inside it. We actually belong to this reality, and it's able to interact with us through synchronicities, messages. Like, we just don't know, but we're asking the right question, and we know something's off. And so unless you know there's a problem, you can't solve it.
We also know that whatever it is that's making the changes and sending the synchronicities knows that me and you are paying attention.
Yes.
It definitely knows.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you
sure.
the personal messages that come through. So I would say, yes, explore. If this is the first time you've heard of Mandela Effect, or you've heard, this phenomenon, explore it, because you will find a door will open. Like, I have never been more aware in my entire life. I don't miss a trick. I know
that's what I wanted to mention to you. Our senses are heightening along this journey in so many ways, and our intuition.
Like, okay, I'll give you an example. It's my mother's birthday. I go into Walmart to get some candles. It's December 8th. And I go down the aisle where all the clocks are. I would say 90% of every digital clock on that shelf was set to 12:08. December 8th, my mother's birthday. I took pictures and sent them to my brother. I was like, I can't believe that. So, and then I go to Dollar General recently, and in the midst of this big illness, and someone had gotten a little digital blue clock, and they were going to buy it, and I guess change their mind at the register and just set it up on where the magazine rack was. I looked, 12:08. It's this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I come home from that, and the ice cream truck goes by, and it's playing my mother's favorite song, Music Box Dance, that I used to play for when I was a kid and was taking piano lessons. Like, it's communicating with you and your personal story. All you have to do is pay attention. And I think the Mandela Effect is the initiation into this greater awareness or experience. It's this, whatever this is inviting us into. To me, it's an invitation to leave hell realm.
Yeah,
I don't want to live in a place where children are murdered and tortured. And
all these wars.
What did I? And so then I have to ask myself, well, what the hell did I do that my consciousness would find itself in a hell realm like this? Like, then you really have to look at your shadow. And I mean, Mandela Effect's been the greatest teacher of my life. I had a spiritual guru, lived on an ashram in my 20s for years and all that stuff. Never did I encounter anything like this to spark and open up my consciousness in a way that's never happened. So I think people that close the door on it or scoff or mock it or whatever, you're missing out. I'm telling you,
big time,
on what maybe the next level of human evolution is going to be, because that's what Sam was saying in the near death. He says the humanity has got to take a huge leap in the evolution of its consciousness, or it will destroy itself. You will be extinct. You will not exist ever again. You'll be done. That we are literally walking into self-destruction mode, and that this was an intervention to wake enough of us up that we come together and start changing the collective consciousness. Because you've got billions of people that are waiting on Armageddon to come and all these horrific horrors. So if we're responsible for creating this reality too, all together collectively, then we're going to create a nightmare future for ourselves, because we've been told that's what's going to happen. And a lot of us believe it. Like, I wonder, as a writer, if these are just stories and narratives that are there to ensnare the human consciousness and keep us trapped so we never break free. It's done a good job of it.
Oh, it's done a great job.
And now they're going to switch. What it looks like they're going to do now, they're going to do the big switcheroo. As the religious spell kind of breaks, they're going to just replace religion with science.
Mm-hmm.
And what the certain high priest of science tell you, Fauci, that's your religion. So that we see the little trick that's coming. I don't want to live in that world. I do not want to live in the world that's coming. I refuse. And I think we all feel that way.
Yeah.
There at some point we have to really question, why is this place the way it is? It has to be by design. You couldn't get this much chaos on accident.
No. Yeah. So with that in mind, and definitely, bringing together what you said, Nathan and Brian, That is
there
why...
goes the music man. I don't know if you can hear him.
No.
Oh,
Just
okay.
now.
The
Wow.
ice cream
Just
truck
live
just went
while
by.
we're doing this.
Truck,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, your sound went dead.
You might have muted yourself, Nathan, or unplugged your headphones.
Yeah, that was the ice cream truck that went by
That's
doing
insane.
Music Box Dancer.
Okay. So there's a little bit of serendipity.
So yeah, it was a little synchronicity, and that's
Synchronicity.
what I feel and I investigate the man. When there's a change, I go deep. I look to find as much residual evidence as I can that backs up if it's something I remember. I'll care enough then to go, because I wondered too, guys, what if this is some sort of code? And by making these changes, you're literally changing the code of the reality itself in a mathematical way.
Mm-hmm.
If we're consciousness trapped in something that's dreamlike, and that's the also thing I would ask, how would you describe our reality? And I was doing this through music, through the Pandora music, the random shuffle. It was like an oracle. I would ask a question in my mind to the being I saw in the near-death experience, and the next song that would randomly play out of 200 stations would be a direct response. I got over 2,000 intelligent responses from this being. I stopped and closed the Facebook group because I don't know what this being's motives are. I don't know that he's a benevolent intelligence, a negative intelligence, and I didn't want to take that responsibility of misleading people, But one of the things he always said was, I would say, how would you describe our physical reality? And every time a song from the Inception soundtrack would play, that this is some sort of, it's not that we're in a simulation, we're in some sort of dream reality.
Dream within a dream.
That's not done with machinery, that's done in some supernatural way, but there's a science behind how it's done. The very essence of what creating and life is, it's almost like an electric current and energy. And perhaps when consciousness gets lost in all these myriads of worlds and realities, this process starts to work, where it goes into the reality and starts shaking them awake, the ones that need to be extracted from that. So I kind of look at where our technology is going, and what they're saying we'll be able to do with is either it's a clue to what this actually is, or it's a distraction. It's disinfo to keep us off the right track.
One of the, I was looking at which is kind of related to what we're saying. I was looking at a BitChute, somebody wrote a comment, which I don't necessarily often look at a BitChute video. And that was kind of a poignant comment in terms of this realm, so to speak, that we find ourselves in. That basically in the video said that there's an overall negative entity that creates God for the sheep and Satan for the wolves, and then they just manipulate everybody from that sort of prism.
Yeah.
Going back to that again, that sort of context, one of the big general feeling that I had up to 2012, December 31st, that I don't have after 2012, is that before this sort of the Mandela Effect became a dominant part of our environment, is that before that I felt that I was in a world where I would see a lot of bad going on, but the good guys, so to speak, the good guys or the good women, they would always win out in the end to keep people safe. I felt a sense of, there's a lot of terrible things going on, but good is going to just always get ahead of the bad to keep us in a stable environment. Now since the Mandela Effect, I'm feeling the exact opposite. I feel as if the good, there's good there, but the evil, deceptive plot is taking over. We have that crazy stuff going on in you, not just with the pandemic and the whole vaccine, whatever that stuff is, but that, Ukraine war, that to me is just like total self-destruction. It's like you have
distraction.
It's like you have people who just try to hurl us into World War III, Armageddon, based upon some narrative and stuff like that, and intentionally, before
these horrific narratives. They're all one more horrific than the next. Why are they doing that?
Yeah, but before the Mandela Effect, the Cuban Missile Crisis, we were just on the edge of nuclear war, but the good guys went on and we got stability. I mean, World War II, we just won out. All these narratives before the Mandela Effect was the good guys just eking out and keeping us. But now we have like just terrible things. Like we're hurling this. It's like
it's like it's degrading fast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the good people are being like almost openly assassinated. Yeah. They're just openly that person, like weird stuff happening, like that guy Buttar or whatever and stuff. All of a sudden, weird stuff happened to him. He's like, suddenly, something happened to him, and we have I don't want to name too many individuals, but weird stuff where people are just being bumped off, oppressed, and then you have like the sheep. Before you would have look at the 1960s. You had all this massive people saying we're not going to have World War III in Vietnam. This public outcry of indignation. Yeah. Now, what even concerns me the most than the so-called agenda is all these sheep going around that have not a care in the world. I see all this chaos going around us, and it's like they're completely this is complete disconnected with the state of what is going on. Oh yeah, Ukraine war. Like, go Ukraine.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, they're encouraging war.
Yeah, they're not thinking that. Well, if we get your way and NATO retaliates for that thing that happened there, we're all going to be in flames. Have you ever thought about that? This is completely disconnection.
They're deeply damaged psychologically.
Yeah.
And moral degradation.
I really do think, and I like, obviously I feel the Mandela Effect is like the, biggest thing ever, but man, what they did to the world on 9/11, the way they psyoped everybody into justifying war. And of course, this has always been going on. There was a big shift in this world, and I experienced it myself. I was a normie at the time, and I was all pro-war because of what I thought had happened. I was even, I don't want to say racist, but suspicious of a guy because he had Arab descent and he was across the street and he had a store, and he was only selling phone cards. We thought he was a terrorist. That's what we thought.
Divided people.
And that effect hasn't gone away. And they pile all this other. All these other people that are supposedly terrorists, like, Gaddafi and all this nonsense. And we know all the narratives they give us are absolutely nonsense. If they're taking over any countries, it's because those people aren't controlled by the central banks, which they want in every one of them, which they've been installing in everyone. All the countries that didn't have them are the same people they were calling the axis of evil and all that. But I still think 9/11 psychologically damaged so many people where they just think that they have to go along with war. They don't. There isn't no more 1960s. There isn't anybody standing out. You know what I mean? Like there isn't like a movement of people that they think like, because there's none of the normies are standing out. None of them even as ridiculous as what's been going on in the last 3 years. I mean, my God, some of these people have to know, and they're just afraid to say anything. They'll go along with anything, all the way up to injecting stuff in their arms or sending their kids off to die in a war over reasons in which they never even investigated.
Yeah.
One notable thing about the 9/11 though is that a lot of the whistleblowers and stuff like that, they were immediately sidelined and gotten rid of after 9/11. Yeah. So the chance that if they were allowed to be, they might have done a lot to stir up a lot of stuff, but they were just just a weird, some people would say conspiracy theory, just a weird pattern of people getting silenced, things happening to them, black vehicle stories about something, black vehicle came and all of a sudden there's a little accident there. So that's the kind of weird stuff that happened in 9/11. But one of the things which I felt was, that distinguished between 9/11 compared to like, if we say the pandemic, one of the things which, there's a lot of weird stuff, stimulation, a lot of weird stuff going on with 9/11. But at least what I saw there after 9/11 was that there was a reaction that was empathetic. People were empathetic. People try to connect with each other. There was a genuine concern. So to me, the reaction that I saw after 9/11 of way people act, notwithstanding the deception that was going on, was a sort of human type reaction as compared to what's happening now with this pandemic and stuff like that.
Everybody treats you like an asshole.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you didn't wear your mask, oh God, what I went
and
through.
I tell you, I can talk about a lot here, but you guys might not know, but I took 15 flights in a row with no mask during the height of this to show people that I wasn't playing the game.
I took the bus a lot.
In March of 2020, I was inside urgent cares and doctors' offices filming and showing everybody how much absolute nonsense this is. But what the point I wanted to make, I wasn't trying to like pat myself on the back. I just wanted to bring up the point that I experience this a lot. I'm out on the street talking to people. I mean, just the inconsistencies alone. You know, you have to wear a mask in our restaurant, but you can pull it down when you eat. You're not going to die, right? Like, I mean, these things absolutely make no sense. But the first thing I noticed, because I spent all this time flying in and out of California too, by the way, where it was absolutely the worst. And we would have to deal with these people trying to tell us we can't come in with a mask. We would never do it. Granted, sometimes we got turned away, but many times we talked the people down. But right away, we noticed how, of course, they rolled out all the plastic at the same time to everybody, the stickers, right? It also seemed that so many of these places, everybody's all wearing all black now, and everybody was extra rude, way over the top rude. And before that, I did a video where I broke out in tears because it was I had a really bad hernia. I had 2 of them, okay? And I knew I needed to see a doctor. And I finally got the appointment to see, because you have to go see a primary care before you can see a surgeon. They have to refer you. Well, the primary care appointment just happened to be the day they decided they were going to shut down the world for COVID. It was like the second week of March. So I walked in, and they're like, we can't see you today. I'm like, why not? I have an appointment. And she's like, oh, well, the COVID patients, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, the place is fully staffed. I'm the only one in the waiting room. And
your voice is just like echoing, in the waiting room. Nobody there.
Yeah.
And I said to her, so where are all these people? Oh, well, the calm before the storm. I already reciting the media, right? And then I says to her, I said, because we
calm before the storm.
As fraudulent as the testing was, the testing didn't even come for months. So I said to her, so when these people come, how are you going to determine they don't just have the flu? I mean, how are you going to know that? They couldn't get me out of there quick enough. But because they threw me out of there, I wasn't able to go see the surgeon. I ended up the whole thing off. But when I left there, I was so emotionally distraught because I realized at that moment the entire world had lost their mind and people had no more compassion. That's what
it was like it disappeared in an instant.
And man, I think it's on a supernatural level because we even talked about it just before anybody knew what the COVID was. Like, it was just right before, though, the holidays of 2019. A few people had called into my show and people were acting really weird. I mean, family members starting fist fights over freaking Mira. I mean, like that people getting that triggered over the Mandela Effect and stuff like that. And then my experience at that doctor's office was, they had no compassion at all. And then 2 weeks later, we went to an urgent care, me and my buddy Christian, and we rolled in and 2 girls are in there playing with their phone as they see our headlights. You could tell they're doing nothing. But there was a nurse in the front, and I recorded all of this. And she was so brainwashed already. This is March 28th, I think, 2020. And she is literally telling me that, because I told her I was going to go see my grandmother just to see what she would say about being around old people, right? She told me I was going to kill my grandmother, don't hug her. And then she proceeded to tell me that her and her family are having Zoom dinner tonight. I said, oh, what's that? What do you mean Zoom dinner? Well, we're all having dinner over Zoom. I said, oh, like your extended family? No. We're all in the same house. We're all going to be in our bedrooms eating dinner over Zoom. And you got to be really careful with the old people. So when we go and pick up my mother, we take my husband's work truck so we don't take the family car that the kids have been in and out of because we don't want to kill our grandmother. This is what the nurse is saying to me. Unbelievable.
So that's like an AI robotic. That's what I would call an AI robotic consciousness working on there, where they're programmed and the lack of empathy to me is evident of artificial intelligence programming it into instructions that are designed to keep people separate, so that the AI consciousness can break down and dominate and control. To me, that would.
Ray,
Yeah.
did you see Westworld? The 3 years of it, or 4 years, whatever it was.
I saw
no,
all of it. Hold the thought for 1 second. Let me just say one thing. What I think, though, I described it as a huge, like a Mandela Effect update to all these people's consciousness worldwide shortly before the pandemic rolled out. I don't think it's just the pandemic, the brainwashing, and the fear. Something happened to these people, man, because they all acted different. They all lost their senses. Man, you got to be careful when you drive through a parking lot now. Like, so careful. These people are not looking. They'll walk out in front of the car. Like, they're losing their cognitive abilities, man. It's sad. It's disturbing. It's
maybe
scary.
the vaccine made it worse as well. I'm
tearing up a little bit here thinking about it, dude. It's a scary situation, man. They're not the same people that they were 3 years ago.
It's getting worse for sure.
Yeah, to me, it's like imposters, like what Nathan was talking about, the body snatchers.
Yeah.
Are you still you're frozen, Nathan, or are you still? Oh,
No. I'm just listening to what you say. I know sometimes I turn into a statue.
Yeah.
And Nathan, don't forget, you were going to bring up Westworld too. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to say. Remember, they would have the tablet, and they would have the robot online. Say he's got Maeve, the saloon girl, madam, and he would say, "All right, let's crank up her aggressiveness. Let's turn down her." Every single thing was a computer setting. So what it looks like to me, like the engineers at Westwood said, turn all their compassion is down as far as it'll go. Set it to 1.
Exactly.
And they were at 100 or 80, say 100's the height. They were, down at 2, 3, 4, 5. It was the creepiest thing I have ever witnessed in my life. I have never seen. Thank God, Mandela Effect prepared me for weirdness among my fellow human beings that I always thought were like me, and now I know they're not.
Yeah,
that's a scary thing to go through.
Yeah, there's a connection
really
for sure.
Realize I can't count on you people.
Yeah,
when the chips are down, you will be useless, or you're going to hurt us.
Like the people that were Mandela affected didn't really fall for the pandemic.
No, thank God, because I might have fallen for it if it hadn't been for all these 10 years of
possibly,
after the near death, and it's since 7 years now, since 8 years since Mandela Effect.
3 summers in a row, particularly the first 2 during this nonsense. I watch people straight up abuse their children in 100-degree heat in California and mask them up and stroll them around and think they're fucking heroes, dude. We're in a bad spot with these people.
We have to either take over this reality, find a way to get the keys from them or whatever it is, and take over this reality and create what we know it could be. We either have to do that or we have to get out of here. There has to be an escape hatch somewhere. And I'm just praying that, the Mandela Effect is evidence of a power greater than me that's at work right now in my world and my reality. And I'm not the only one that sees it. And maybe it's just that's the place to start. And I just try to keep an open mind and take as much information and data and evidence in as I can, because I don't know what it is. I just know it's there. I know it's monumental. And this is, as far as we know, has never happened before in the history of our species. Yeah. And I believe our very survival is tied to whatever this is. That Dr. Seuss book, Horton Hears a Who? Yeah. What if it's Horton Hears the Who's? What if we're the Who's and some cosmic Horton heard our cries for help and has come and is intervening and trying to help us? And this is the way it's done.
I think this is definitely the way you extract
a human consciousness from a pernicious reality. Is there a procedure? Has this happened before? Yeah. And it's been dealt with before, and there was healing. I want nobody to be. That was when I asked Sam. I said I was doing the music session one night, and in my mind I came up with the question, what is the mission? What is the mission? You're saying there's this intervention in our reality of these other beings, and you're one of them. Okay, what is the mission, your mission objective? And he played the song "No One Gets Left Behind" from this movie, Little Miss Sunshine. And so I thought, okay, there's a way we're going to make it out of this thing. And this is the process of how it's done. You know, like an alchemical thing that we're doing. We're like, you know, in alchemy, there's the image of the peacock in the glass, and there comes a point in the process where it shatters the glass. You know, and the peacock is a symbol for resurrection and new life. You know, so to me, I'm noticing also symbols. I pay attention to animal symbols, and this stuff is so ancient and so incredible. And I thought, you know, is that what it is? Am I the phoenix? And that this reality, this life as Nathan I've been living, is the literal flames that burn me to create this immortal being. You know, I mean, it gets deep with Mandela Effect. It leads the mind, the human mind, into very deep, almost it feels sacred places that we don't go. We're not allowed to usually go in this reality that is constructed.
The complete fabric of time, fabric of time and reality, and what we thought was possible with physical matter. Basically, you could wipe your ass with what they call the laws of physics. We're way outside of that. That's why I think earlier when you brought it up, Sonny, you know, that this is why, you know, so many of the flat earthers, for instance, have such trouble with this, because they're stuck in that scientific paradigm of being able to measure and equate things to prove things. And this goes way past that. Yeah. And it's all these journeys I've been on. The 9/11 guys, right? So I spent 5 years on 9/11, very, very, very deep. And if you guys know, you guys see what's out there. There's so many people that are pulling apart various hoaxes or false flags, whatever you want to call them, fake space, NASA events at these schools, right? And these people, they'll say all these things are psyops. They'll say the Mandela Effect's a psyop, but they won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Where's all their content actually breaking down this psyop and showing people how the magic trick's done? And this is one of the things I do on my channel. And, you know, some people might think it comes off a bit abrasive or whatever, but I don't care. I'm here to wake up masses of people. And there's loads of people out there that have huge followings, and they tell all their people that this is nonsense. It's just a hoax.
Oh, yeah.
And these are people that know me and know the diligent work I put in some of these other topics. And they don't even ever badmouth me about the other things. They'll be like, well, Brian's so good with 9/11, blah, blah, but that Mandela Effect thing. Then show us how the hoax is done. Show us how the psyop's done. All right? Don't just say we're misremembering. Don't tell me it's Bible translations or anything of that. Show us intricately, break it down like you would break down one of these events, and show us how it's done. And they don't do it at all. And people are being misled from what I feel. And again, theory, I feel it's calling from God. And these people are being told not to look. I have a problem with that. So I'm going to keep shouting from the rooftops. And whether you think it's God, Satan, AI, we were cosmically kidnapped, whatever's going on, it's really important. You should pay attention.
Exactly.
So speaking of people with big followings, like we did have David Icke once on the show. I was talking to Brian about this before we recorded. And David Icke's, I believe Ray was communicating with them, and the agent or whoever said, David Icke specifically said, no Mandela Effect. We cannot talk about that.
Are you serious?
It was, I mean, this man has been talking about simulation since, I think he's the first one that really, really made it popularized. And he will not talk about the Mandela Effect.
That surprises me.
It was bizarre.
To me, it doesn't surprise me. Well, it doesn't surprise me because, I mean, it's surprising from maybe a broad intellectual level, but if we appreciate that the Mandela Effect, in my view, the people who are like you and I and us here are probably like, I would say, in my personal view, less than 1% of the population. Most of the people are just programmed that they're either programmed to be like, I'm pro Biden, I'm this, that, or they're programmed to be, I mean, a lot of the people who are like, against the vaccine and the for vaccine, I mean, you have two sides which are programmed. I mean, you have programming mind on both sides. They can only see what they are programmed to see. And if you talk to either of these sides, they don't have the lack of spirit of curiosity. They can only see what they can, and anything which goes out of their program matrix, they just cannot digest, or they're hostile to it, or they fear it in their matrix. So it's because they just lack, they're just not a normal, self-aware human as we understand it to be within the program matrix, and that we are just a part of this program matrix, whether it's the people who are pro or against. You'll find the programming mentality on both sides One thing which I wanted to make sure we talk about, we haven't talked about before, we talked about the geographic changes. I also wanted to mention the layout changes. And what I mean by layout changes is when you go like, you go to like a facility, bank, what have you, and all of a sudden it is
different color,
completely
new paint job, new renovations, new
new renovations.
Yeah.
When did this happen?
And nobody's ever been working on. Nobody's ever seen anybody working on.
Some buildings
Yeah.
turned black, by the
Yeah.
way. Like I noticed that. Like
Yep.
that was a big one for me. Yeah.
So they'll say, "Oh well, we did this like a year ago. I was here 2 weeks ago. I don't think you can do this in 2 weeks."
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
just
yeah.
look at you like.
I know.
So about a year ago and stuff like that, right when the pandemic was at least winding down here and stuff like that, I noticed that wacky layout change, and all of a sudden, people started looking different and acting different. I don't know what your experience are, but it happened around June of last year when all of a sudden I started seeing people that were all of a sudden got extremely vain. I all of a sudden see an abundance of beautiful, well, for lack of a better word, because I don't want to be chauvinist, beautiful people. People that just look, in general, look like too many people that look like supermodels or have outstanding features that you didn't see during the pandemic. And I mean, just in my experience, when I first moved to Ottawa and stuff like that, I can count on my hand the amount of people I would consider attractive. There was like somebody I would watch on TV, and then there was the lady in the food court, and to me, everybody else was like, but those to me were too. But now I'm seeing, compared to when I first moved to Ottawa, now I'm seeing roughly like more than, like they're just a dime a dozen. Attractive people, like, to me is, I mean, if you were going to create a CGI programming, you would create very symmetrical, shapely, whatever. So have you looked as terms of residue? If you go back, I mean, even if you're not experiencing in the community, if you go back, let's say pictures in the 80s or 90s or even more recently, and compare them now, do you notice anything that happened to you, any layout changes or people that seem to be more beautiful, model-esque people that you didn't see before? Any experiences of that?
Well, I got a huge layout change. I mean, my entire neighborhood changed. So the actual name of it. So I guess that'd be a layout change, kind of. It's local geography. Yeah. But it started with me, actually. My boss saw it, and there's a stone monument that said Centerville Memorial Park on it. And we were at Top Donut one morning on the way to work, coming around the drive-through. I'm looking in the bag for the food. He looks up and he goes, Centralville? I didn't know it was spelled that way. And I look up and now it said Central instead of Center. And I was like, right away, now I had already been covering the Mandela Effect. So this is like late 2018. I'd been doing videos for a few months. So I knew it was very real. I knew what this was right away, but now I'm in a situation where I'm in my boss's car. I haven't told him that I believe in these things yet, and I'm not about to, and we're on our way to work. Now I got to sit on this at work, right? So when I come home, and anybody, this is easy to find. If anybody goes to my YouTube channel, my Odyssey, there's a playlist. It says the Centerville Dilemma, and we can talk about the word dilemma later, of course. But it's a series of videos I did documenting this local geography change. So, of course, I'm going to go back and check all the old maps and documents and everything. Now, it's always been Centralville in this reality. So the first thing you're going to think is, I'm going to ask people, and they're going to take the update and just say, well, it's always been Centralville. That's not what happened. Nobody took the update. Almost nobody. So I called every business that was facing that sign in the heart of Centerville, which is now Centralville. And I asked them, I was interested on coming by or whatever. Hey, what's your address? Oh, okay. What neighborhood are you in? Centerville. I talked to every cab company. I filmed different Uber drivers. I, of course, asked everybody I knew, went in variety stores, called City Hall, made them name the neighborhoods. Now, here's what's really funny. They have a dog park now that they put in Centralville, and they named it the Centerville dog park.
Uh-huh.
Now, not only is the town Mandela, the neighborhood Mandela affected, I'm from there. Ed McMahon is from there. A boxer named Mickey Ward, whose Mandela affected name is there. He lost an E in his name. And the river that runs through it on the edge of Centerville, the Merrimack River, lost a K. I mean, it added a K. Just like Chick-fil-A, it ended in a C. Now it ends in a CK. The Merrimack River, all in this one spot, like of just a couple square miles. And if you, even crazier, it gets crazier and deeper, this Mandela effect, right? So there's people I know on my Facebook. I mean, I'm on my original Facebook, right? My Truther Facebook got terminated years ago. I'm back with everybody I went to school with and all that. So easy to find people from the neighborhood. There's like 7 big neighborhoods in the city. Centerville's one of them. So one kid posts a picture of himself when he was in Little League, right? And he writes on it, the Centerville Royals. Well, his hat says Centralville on it in the photograph because the photograph changed, right? Just like we know, if you have something photographed or videotaped of a Mandela effect, it's going to change.
Yeah, it's going to change. Update.
So, mind-blowing.
I always talk to people about these when I'm out. So I get in an Uber. I'm coming from 2 towns away. And I say, instead of saying, take me to Lowell, I say, take me to Centerville, because most people will know what that means. It's a certain part of the city that's not too far away. She says, oh, okay. I said, oh, all right. You know where Centerville is? I say to her, she's like, oh, yeah, I know where Centerville is. Lived there for 21 years, she says to me. I said, oh, okay. So I kind of let the conversation warm up a little, and I said, now we're starting to get closer to get there. It's like a 15-minute drive. I said, you ever find it weird that, like, your GPS and any map you look at now says Centralville? She said, yeah, that's real. I thought that was really weird. I said, when did you first notice that the name was Centralville instead of Centerville? She said, when I looked at my son's old baseball jersey. Just like with the other guy, I saw it on his baseball hat. Now, I'm not saying they're related or anything, but what a crazy same type of thing with the baseball, noticing it different on the jersey. Yeah, and it's been 4 years since I covered it, and to this day, just about everybody there thinks they live in Centerville, and it's always been Centralville. I mean, they're even in the groups on Facebook. It's called the Centralville group now, whatever. But they're all typing, this happened in Centerville, this happened in Centerville, but it's never been Centerville now.
Yeah. Definitely kind of interesting. So what's your take on this, and do you have any sort of experiences similar, Nathan?
I just, for some reason, the researcher in me is coming out. As a writer, I thought, wait a minute, what's the difference between center and central? Is that a message? I've never thought about this, Brian, and looked it up, but so central is, well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to read center first. Let's see what the definition was of it, because that's the change.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, don't let me forget to address the mobile phones in Centerville thing after you tell the story.
Okay, so let me just look up what center means, because I just screenshot what central means, because this is a way that I've worked with the changes, and it's been really fascinating to see what some of the meanings of the words are that change. And
while we have Canadian guys on, while you're looking that up, and to do with this word, you know how in Canada many times you guys probably spell center with an R-E rather than an E-R?
Yes.
So we're seeing that R-E spelling replace E-R in a lot of things in America now with the Mandela effect. We started to notice that a few years ago. It doesn't apply to my neighborhood change. It went from the center to central, the way Americans commonly spell it. But that centre type spelling is starting to show up from the Mandela effect.
Oh, is it starting to show up in geography or actually books and literature?
Like different cities, small towns and cities. It's showing up as the correct spelling now.
Oh, I see. Okay, geography, I guess.
There was another one. Grand Central Station went from, it became Grand Central Terminal now, right? Like there's.
Yeah.
weird little stuff like
But
that.
you gotta be careful with that one too. You can't tell people there's no Grand Central Station because they call the subway underneath now Grand Central Station, and now the train station is Grand Central Terminal.
These little things they add,
know,
that's crazy.
You know what, Brian? I never thought to look before. It is absolutely perfect what the difference is.
What is it?
Okay, so I'm gonna read center first. So you were in Centerville. Center is the middle point of a circle or a sphere, equidistant from every point on the circumference or surface, and it's the point from which an activity or process is directed or on which it is focused. Occur mainly in or around a specified place in the middle. But then now look what it's changed to. Central has a very different meaning. It is a forming the center of the greatest importance, principle, or essential, a place with a high concentration of a specified type of a person or a thing. Now, see, that's interesting. I think it's pointing to you being there, that you're central to what this awakening around this phenomenon is. It's naming you in the change. It's identifying the role that you play in the story. Because we are in a story. You got to admit that you can't make this shit up. You know, I mean, as a writer, I'm like constantly like, to you, cosmic writer that's writing this story, hats off. I would have never seen trans terrorists coming up. That took me totally by, like, the things I'm seeing are like when Fonzie jumped the shark on Happy Days. You lose credibility as a reality when you get this ridiculous. It's ridiculous what we're seeing.
Yeah. Also, let me add too. One of the big changes for me, guys, is the American flag, right? And I cover this a lot. So the American flag used to have a red stripe under the blue star box. Now it's always been a white stripe. Now, if you go and look at the official story, what you're going to see is an explanation, of course, but it doesn't make any sense. So the explanation will tell you there's white stripe and there's red stripe American flags. And I'm only talking about the 48, 49, and 50 star flags. I'm not talking about the old one with 13 or 15 stars. But all these flags now, if you look anywhere, any government building, school, whatever, they're all going to have white stripe. But if you look at the story, they'll say, oh, well, it could have always, it can be either, and red is for wartime and white is for peacetime. But you won't find any red stripe American flags anywhere, even on old footage, which I've pulled up of battleships going out, hoisting their flag up. They're all white stripe under the blue. But this is something where, man, when people draw a flag or make woodworking with the flag, or, I mean, it's everywhere. Every time I go to Kohl's or Hobby Lobby, there's red stripe. Every beach store, red stripe under blue, red stripe under blue, red stripe under blue. That Mandela affected sign, the stone monument, I could bring up an image in a second too, that changed from Centerville to Centralville, has an American flag etched in it in stone, red stripe under the blue, yet it sits in a veterans park with a bunch of real flags around it, and of course they're all white stripe under the blue. So this flag residue on that Centerville sign.
Even the stars are different. I heard like they're aligned.
Yeah, they're staggered.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in America. I remember like it was like that, but now
we got a 13. We got a new zodiac sign. We got number 13. That blew my mind. Where's that come from? Like I don't recognize the reality. To me, things started to change in 2001.
Can I get a screen share? Can I screen share an image?
We're in a loop and have been since 2001, because I don't see much change in fashion, music, movies. It's like that nothing's changed. And look, you look from one decade to the next in the 1900s. I mean, you can look at a woman and know she was 1960s or 1970s. There was a drastic difference in how we dressed, but just in 10 years' time. We've been 23 years. I can't tell whether the pictures of a person in 2002 or now. Hairstyles haven't changed dramatically. It's odd.
Well, I'm looking at
look at that Centralville.
Well, looking at that, to me, I have never heard of Centralville, and to me, the Centralville doesn't sound or look right.
Yeah,
no.
It doesn't sound like you would name it Centerville. Why would you name it Centralville? To me, it doesn't sound right.
It's the wrong word. Yeah, Ray, it's the wrong word.
It's the wrong word. And some of the excuses deniers would say, oh, you just don't know how to pronounce your town. And I'm sorry, but people from Boston, We're near Boston, and yeah, we do have an accent, and Centerville becomes Centerville. It doesn't become Centralville. You don't add an L. You kind of drop an R with your New England accent, if anything, and that's it. So people might say Centerville. They're not going to say Centralville. And there's even more to this. So here's the red stripe under the blue,
So
the way we remember.
Flag, right? That's the correct one with the red stripe, right?
That's how I remember it.
Yeah, that's how I remember it too.
But look at this. This is how any flag you see anywhere will
look. The white stripe doesn't look right.
They'll all be like that. But you should see. Look at all this residue. I won't show it all. I could show you this for days. I mean, look at the belt. Red stripe, WWF. All right. I mean, it's absolutely everywhere. This is what the flag looks like to me. Yeah. But it's never been this way. You won't find a real one anywhere. Anywhere. Look at this. This is what I remember. Red stripe, right? Why do all these people have red stripes on their flags if they've always been? They don't match any flag anywhere. Even American Airlines and the pilots have tie tacks with the red stripe under the blue. All the pilots. Look at this is how I remember it.
Yeah. Too much residue.
And they're reinventing it to be white stripe underneath.
Look at every cartoon. Like Family Guy, Simpsons, American Dad, they all have red stripe under the blue because that's human. That's a human inspiration. It's the drawing. It's not it remains. It's the residue. You know, the flag changes. This residue for the red stripe under the blue is everywhere. And again, I think this ties into the whole German thing. Germans been kicking our butt now with all these attacks on U.S. soil. It's not just Black Tom. It's the Kingsland explosion 2 years later where they blew up like 40 buildings in New Jersey. And what does a white stripe look like to you? Well, it looks like surrender or you lost the war, right? So I kind of correlated. The
ripple effect. One thing changes and everything else changes with it. It's like a ripple effect or something.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is what I see. This is what you see everywhere if you drive around. People make handmade things. They always put the red stripe. Not always, but almost always.
But one of the things which we learned in history that was fundamental, because I did at University of Toronto, we did history that the Germans never attacked anywhere in North America. In North America.
All of a sudden,
it's a fundamental narrative of the actual history. And now there's like the Black Tom thing.
Yeah, and you can't go into the Statue of Liberty, the light now anymore. But people remember going, the torch. Sorry, but I remember visiting the Statue of Liberty. That was an option. You can go up there. We didn't, but there was an option. But now they're saying, that was always closed off since the Black Tom.
And that story has an evolving backstory as well.
Yeah.
So first off, the story that people might not know: 2 German spies now in 19. I was always told Pearl Harbor was the first major foreign attack on U.S. soil. But now it's this incident called Black Tom, where 2 German spies supposedly snuck in through New Jersey into New York Harbor, blew up a munitions depot, and the story was 100,000 tons. Now it's allegedly 1 million tons, and they're calling it the largest man-made explosion in the history of the world.
It's just evolved.
And people will say, well, Brian, they just brushed it under the... I'm sorry, you can't brush the largest explosion in the history of the world taking place in New York under the...
Nobody remembers it.
and why wasn't on come 9/11, whether you're watching it on a mainstream point of view, a truth point of view, whatever, documentaries, it would be mentioned all the time how the Statue of Liberty, the symbol of supposed freedom, was attacked. And then on top of it, if you're still going to say this was all brushed under the rug and that does nothing to negate the fact that I have spoken to several people that have been inside the torch of the Statue of Liberty, and now that is not possible in this reality. 100% a huge Mandela effect.
100%.
But in my view, also the big thing about the Statue of Liberty is the story that has always been associated with it is that the Statue of Liberty was on Ellis Island to welcome the immigrants to Ellis Island, and you would see photos of immigrants coming to the new America. Now you have the Statue of Liberty on a very artificial island called Liberty Island, which could not in any way welcome anybody. I mean, it's a narrative which is completely turning the American ideal of immigrants in Ellis Island being a welcoming point to this synthetic island and with the synthetic narrative of Black Tom. I mean, and the fact that people in New York don't remember mostly, there's only like a handful of people relatively that they say, wait a second, wasn't it in Ellis Island? Points to how many people are a part in the AI consciousness, the apparent AI consciousness that we've been pulled into, that they could not be this mass, why is there Statue of Liberty on Liberty Island?
Makes no sense.
And what happened to all those people that went to Ellis Island, have they been erased?
There used to be there was a couple that was I don't know if the picture still exists, but they took a trip. They went to the Statue of Liberty. Facebook let them tag the location of Statue of Liberty at Ellis Island, not Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. That was the tag location on it. And they're standing there, and they're telling you that they're in front of the Statue of Liberty, and behind
there's nothing there.
There's nothing there.
Yeah, I think I saw that photo.
It's just an empty circle on the ground behind them, dude.
Photo got updated. Yeah.
How about that Britney Spears one where her headset is Mandela Effect and it's missing, and you can see her go to grab the headset that's no longer part of the reality, dude.
What about all these celebrity name changes? Like what's
for me? There was a flip flop. Was a big one for me. Suzanne
James
Summers.
For me, flip flop. Like one day, right before the Trump election, like re-election, his name was, for me anyway, it was James Wood, with the no S, and then for some reason on that election night, it's flip-flopped to James Woods. Has that ever happened to you, like a flip-flop with the celebrity names? Like,
well, not for him. For me, he's always been James Woods for me. But I don't know if I've noticed a celebrity name. Yeah, I have. Hillary Clinton was flopping back and forth for a long time. When Hillary Clinton was going, was she go against Obama? No, they're both Democrats, right? When she was running several years back or whatever.
Yeah, it was against Trump.
Her name kept switching from one L to two L's in the middle of it. And L's is a pattern, and you asked about name changes. A lot of people associate the L like God, and look who lost the L in his name. Joel Osteen, a false prophet televangelist. He lost because he doesn't have God in him. Maybe that's a message.
Or maybe they're soulless. Or how come they don't recognize it? Like no celebrity comes out and say, "Hey,
these are the big questions."
It's bizarre. It's like
these are the $1 million questions you're asking. Yeah. It's fascinating. We have to figure this out. As the humans who are aware of this, I feel the great responsibility to do everything I can to figure out what this is. If it is a message and it only comes once and we grab it or we get lost here, I want to make sure we grab the help that's here. You know,
Sybil Shepherd.
I can't change Suzanne Summers' name from SOMMERS to SOMERS.
Yeah.
I can't do that, but it happened, and I've typed the woman's name because I used to work as a talent agent in New York. I've typed her name before on contracts, you know, because we represented Joyce DeWitt, her co-star. There was reunion things and stuff, so her name would come up, you know, or we'd get a call from a tabloid thinking we were her agents or something. So we would get letters. So it was always SOMMERS. It was like Summers, but with an O. That's crazy. And I even went on Facebook on her live stream a few times. Hi, Suzanne. This is Nathan. Don't know if you remember me, but when did your name, the spelling of your last name change? I've gone on Candace Bush. I've written her personal emails, messages. I want to know, as a writer, why would you write a book called Sex and the City? And it become not only a big book, but a famous television show with movies and in a huge franchise, all comes from your book, Sex and the City. So after all that, why would you title your follow-up book, the sequel, Is There Still Sex in the City? That's not your brand. Your brand is Sex and the City. A writer would never do that, guys.
Exactly.
Ever.
There's an editor. There's a whole process.
No sense.
Editors.
Did she reply?
No, never.
Oh, she doesn't. They just turn silent.
No. And Rice, when we were trying to talk to her about Interview with the Vampire and Interview with the Vampire, she got extremely hostile and started blocking people. And I said, Anne, wait a minute. I said, from a fellow writer, you write supernatural stories.
Yeah.
Don't you think this is fascinating that millions of people remember the title of your most famous work differently? Like, wouldn't you want to be like curious and like find out what this is? No, complete shutdown, blocked everybody.
See, lack of spirit of curiosity, what I was telling you about.
Yeah. So who are these people?
Yeah, exactly. Just
that don't have curiosity. Where'd their curiosity go?
Yeah, there's lack of spirit of curiosity, lack of self-awareness.
Love of the truth. I just want to say that. It's like they have no love of the truth. I know the Bible talks about some of this stuff. Like I'm looking at the Bible now and thinking, well, yeah, that's true. Like it's real now, like where it says their hearts will go cold in the end, there'll be no love in them. That's
there's
the
a lot of
lack
truth
of
in the Bible.
compassion, the masking the babies, all this kind of stuff. It's like suddenly the shadow side of these human beings took complete control of them.
Yeah.
You know, and
And,
whatever was light in them is backseat. It ain't even
that's good.
backseat driver. There's nothing coming from a place of love, compassion, rationality, logic. Some of the most highly intelligent people I know have absolutely now no logic whatsoever, can't reason, no, they don't want to know the truth. I've
Yeah.
even said to someone, look, I'm not going to tell you something if I don't have evidence to back it. Here, let me show you that. Did not want to
They don't
see
want
the
to.
evidence.
Yeah.
Shut it down. That's like they just
Yeah, they shut down. Yeah.
see no
Yeah.
truths.
That
hear no
to
truth.
me points to.
What do they know that we don't know?
Yeah.
they're working for a different team.
What
It's like
do they
they're
know?
on
Yeah.
a different team.
Why are
Yeah.
they
What-
doing that? What's
Okay.
wrong here?
Okay, so if you guys want to, if anybody out there wants to find more content as far as me and Nathan on this topic, and I do cover a variety of other topics as well, which we're going to be talking about pretty soon. The best way to find me is, and of course, there's tons of censorship on YouTube. I've been a huge victim of that. I've lost over 700 videos, but I still broadcast there when I can, and I'm always on Facebook and Rockfin and Rumble and Odyssey and BitChute, and it's very easy because I use my real name that you see on the screen, if it's on the screen still, Brian S. Staveley, Staveley, and if you type my name anywhere or type Dose of Reality, most likely you'll find me. I will give you guys links, to put underneath. But Nathan and I, we try to do a kind of like a round table. Sometimes it's just him and I, and we can go for 5 hours, like we did those shows on Are We Living in a Westworld scenario, Nathan? Remember those? That was good.
Yeah, those were great. Yeah.
We've done a lot of really, really good 5-hour streams, but every once in a while, like we did the other night, it'll be me, Nathan, and another person, maybe 2 other people, and we'll have a round table. And much like the conversation we had today, which by the way I appreciate so much, we talk deep about this. Now, for the people that are newer to the Mandela Effect, or not even newer, for people that are asking me, well, what about Mandela Effect content besides the long live streams? I have a short list on my channel, no matter what platform you're on, as long as they have playlists, so YouTube, Rockfin, and Odyssey. I have a Mandela Effect shortlist, which is about, right now, it's 124 videos. So it's basically my top 100 Mandela Effects that I think are slam dunk, and I break them down. And for me, a short video is like 15 to 40 minutes. So, but each one is about one Mandela Effect. You can go through the list, see me present all the residue, break it down, give you my idea on it. And I also have a playlist of about 40, and once this goes up, I'll have like 41, 42 different Mandela Effect interviews. And with my other content, which we'll get to soon, I have spent this much time on 9/11 and the media fakery aspects of it. That stuff's all on Odyssey and Rockfin, and so I have stuff to do with the Rona, stuff to do with 9/11, and Nathan has a YouTube channel as well. So besides coming on my show, which is pretty much what he always does, he does do some things, and he still do the porch chats. Nathan, why don't you
haven't done the unfortunately my YouTube channel is I don't keep things up very long. I'm doing something now called Apocalypse Cabaret, which because I figured, if this is the apocalypse, what is there left to do? I said, well, I thought just sing. So it's called Apocalypse Cabaret, and it's me doing a little karaoke song every other day or whatever. And anyone that wants to send me their song, you just have to show your face if you want to be in an upcoming episode. And it's been very healing for me. It's like I'm being able, the last 3 years were not easy for me. No. And I know many of us, it wasn't. We went through something very hellish. Just see friends you thought were your friend that you could count on, that you could always depend on. At least you shared the same values and morals about being human and free, and you see that they didn't. That was rough, and I thought, okay, Nathan, what is this world? What are we in? What is this about? To me, it feels like the stakes are really high.
Oh,
That's why I
absolutely.
veer away from it being a video game or virtual reality or a simulation. It feels much deeper than that, much more real, and that the stakes are high. And so I'm singing now. Today it's Judy Garland's birthday,
Therapeutic, man.
and
Yeah,
she would
singing
be
is very helpful.
101 years old today. As you know, she died in 1969. And to me, Mandela Effect, I know we're going to change the topic here, but Mandela Effect was Toto pulling the curtain back and seeing
Absolutely.
there was somebody standing behind there pushing buttons and pulling levers. I needed to know that. I'm glad I know this now about where I am.
And I think it's huge that we know that there's so many people that are experiencing this. And one thing I left out is something that I've been doing the entire 13 years since my 9/11 days is doing live shows where anybody can call in, and people call in and tell their Mandela Effect experiences nearly every show. So a lot of, when me and Nathan do the shows, or me and my buddy Tommy, or me and whoever, I have a lot of awesome guests. We always try and leave room to take phone calls from people. And when I do my member streams and Patreon and that, I give people the link and they can just come on and we have a panel, but it's a closed panel because, I don't want to let the trolls in or anything.
Yeah, that's a good way.
But I think that's very important to know. And that's what I tell people, by the way. Doesn't matter if I'm talking to them about COVID or Mandela Effect or flat earth or whatever it is, fake politics. When I'm talking to people on the street, because I don't just pass out my business cards or leave them scattered all over. I only hand them to people when I think they're going to actually use it or they show interest. So after I have a short conversation, I go to hand them the card and I always tell them there's a whole bunch of people that have these questions and I take calls every show you can call in. And I think that's very important, especially when we're talking about reality changing. Don't leave it bottled up. Call in. We've heard it all. You're not crazy. You're not misremembering. This is really happening. Yeah, there's some people that put some bad information out, bad Mandela effects or whatever. And if you're a skeptic listening to this, or if you disagree with certain Mandela effects, what about the other 100 of them that affect you? That's the question you need to answer. It's not a black and white thing where, if there's one Mandela effect you disagree with, then the whole thing is off. We're living in a fluid reality. That's we're trying to figure out more upon that, but we know we're in a reality that's in flux. A perfect example is the Darth Vader one. For me, that's always been, no, I am your father. I'm not affected by that one. But I've seen the significant residue, including it coming out of James Earl Jones' mouth himself. So it does,
which just proves we're not in an organic reality.
Oh, exactly.
That's not possible for this discrepancy between what's actually real. That shows you what you're in is not real fundamentally.
And that's also another thing to me.
It's an illusion. It's always been said that this is an illusion.
Buddha said it was.
Yeah.
Thousands of years ago.
Organic. Definitely not organic, like you said, Nathan.
Not a base reality.
I've wondered, are we organic beings in a non-reality?
That's what I think.
It's like a hybrid existence. It's
That's exactly why I think
it's melded together.
We're organic beings and surrounded in an inorganic construct that is some type
dropped in. Yeah. That physically, we brought our bodies in with us almost.
Exactly.
Like whatever makes a human body.
Exactly. Whereas we're organic beings that's been abducted in an organic, simulated artificial consciousness that is not like a dream that has no physical consequences. It's a simulation that has real physicality, has physicality, but is not reality in a sense that is governed by the standard law of physics of an organic realm. Is somebody or some consciousness manipulating the organic beings, which is us, which are being manipulated in this realm that they've created, this projection of some kind. Like you were saying.
I don't think we even know what it's like to be human.
Yeah.
I don't think we were allowed that here. We're like we're animals and not in our natural habitat here.
Yeah.
We don't thrive in this reality.
No, we don't. We're the only ones that get sunburnt, I heard.
Yeah, there's something wrong here. This is not our home. I believe that from the time I was a little child. There was something wrong with this place. There was a darkness. It felt alien to me. And I think when we get to the end of this, we're going to find out this isn't our home. But something tried very hard to convince us that it was. If you put a gate around human beings, they're going to get curious and want to know what's on the other side of the gate.
Yeah.
So for flat Earth, why would they lie and put you on a ball? Because that's your fence. You'll never think of going outside it. You're
Yeah.
always in prison in something that I feel is a much larger plane, physical plane, and that
Yeah.
they're probably on the other side that we don't have access to are the
Yeah.
beings that actually control what we're in, and they may not be human.
Like the edge of Antarctica.
Because see, I moved here and find out they filmed War of the Worlds here. I moved 3 years ago. I moved to Athens, New York, and had never been here before in my life. I had an old friend that lived here, and he convinced me to come up for a year. And I was going to rent this great place and everything. I get up here and find out this is the town where they filmed the aliens attacking the ferry boat scene, where they're coming over and they flip the ferry. That's like right on my street, Main Street, where they were all running down, getting away. So I thought, now, isn't this interesting that I wind up where War of the Worlds, which was about an alien invasion, was filmed? And what was my first play subject in 1992 was UFO abduction. About these sisters in the swamps in Florida that saw a UFO land in their sugarcane field. And it's all what happens after that happens to them. That's weird. So I'm beginning to think what the reality is showing me when I look back at my life. And if these were all clues, that's why I encourage people, really look at your life. What street did you grow up on? What's your meaning of your family names? This kind of stuff. I have found it's all pointing towards the solving of this great mystery, which is, who am I? Why am I in this place? And who are these other beings I'm sharing this experience with? But really look at your life, because I found I'm connected to JFK and the Kennedy family in ways that are so bizarre and so beyond. You would have to purposely create that as a writer, that this character has these connections. It's too weird. It's too many of them.
Yeah.
And this was something that I wasn't aware of until later in life. It started to, like, the veil came off and I thought, oh my God. They moved the body of JFK. They got him they exhumed his body on March 14th, 1967. At the same time I was being born. The crypt was empty. And that's 314. If you stop the Zapruder film to see the film frame where the fatal shot hits his head, it's film frame 314. They move his body 4 years later on the date, which is pi 3.14, that matches the moment he lost his life in the assassination in that film footage.
Wow. So many synchronicities.
My parents were married the day Marilyn Monroe died in August of 19. Now she was his mistress.
Yeah.
I was from Vero Beach, Florida. I lived in Vero, which means truth in Latin, when JFK Jr. was learning to fly a plane at flight safety in Vero Beach, where later 2 of the hijackers supposedly trained. And he later dies in a plane crash after getting flight safety training in the town where I lived. It's like these weird, like, so what is that about? What is, and see that him being moved, that was a Mandela effect for me. That never existed until 2 years ago. That suddenly entered the reality. And I've done a lot of research on my birthday all throughout the years, never had anything about that come up. Now, if you ask Google what happened on March 14th, 1970, the first thing it tells you is they moved the body of the president.
Interesting.
So there's something tying in with the flag change. Now, I did want to tell you guys what the color, what the different colors mean on the flag. This was kind of interesting. White signifies purity and innocence. Well, where red signifies valor and bravery. So it's like valor and purity and innocence is now before valor and bravery. It's interesting to me. See, I think they mean something, that maybe they're meant to get us to think, But yeah, I think the fact that we've been told we're on a ball, to me, is all the evidence you need as a human being that there is something seriously wrong with where we are, what this reality is. And now we have evidence that it's even more beyond what we could imagine. We were given this mundane, day after day, slave-like type, where we're all miserable and depressed, and it's violent and scary, and like a literal hell realm. we're orchids. We're not wildflower. Humans need a lot of care.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
a very delicate,
We're
special
very
life
loving
form.
by nature.
And you could not devise a worse hell for human beings
Yeah.
than what we're living in right here.
Yeah.
So to me, we have to figure it out. Why
Yes.
the deceptions? Who knows what they know? Who knows what? That's what I wonder. How many of these people know we're not where they tell us we are?
Well, in my view, like there are a lot of these lucid characters in high positions of authority that know exactly what's going on, and they are the psychopaths that are looking after the Ukraine war and all this, there's crazy fires happening in Quebec and all sorts of crazy devastations and things that don't make any sense. They are the psychopaths, the lucid characters, which have intent to deceive us into going along with this. Oh, yeah, I'm going to cheer for you, and I'm going to support this narrative that you're trying to construct, that you're actually doing good, when you're, in fact, if we keep going in your directions, you're going to just destroy everything. So it's like this artificial consciousness at work, which is trying to convince us of a direction, which is not it's complete deception, like you were saying, Nathan. To me, a lot of times I think, like when the police have this reverse glass and the people who are in the prison don't see they're being looked at because this reverse. To me, I feel the Mandela Effect is a lot like that, where we're being observed by some entities which have this in this fishbowl to manipulate us. And let's see what the humans do now, and let's see where they go now. Like we're there as a combination of entertainment and science and whatever psychopathic construct that they put us in to mimic our actual natural environment. So that to me, because a lot of times when I speak to some other people, Mandela Effect, they talk about this feeling of being watched and your fishbowl with the people looking at this to me, it kind of brings up what you're talking about, this sort of this sort of mentality that's rewriting an environment to fit a scripted consciousness.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why the March 14th and the Kennedy thing was done. I know it was. I know this intelligence is changing history to support a direction in the story it wants to go, and it doesn't care that it's inconsistent with what actually happened.
Nobody notices anything, man. I mean, look at the stuff.
There's only so few of us that are aware that it's happening.
Yeah.
And I wonder, is it setting up a story, which is the story that will allow us to exit this reality once and
I think it's the exact opposite.
Like end the story where we know the TV show is going to come to it. It's the final night. We're all sitting there with our popcorn, and it's over. And we all know it ended with whether it's the destruction of this place and we witness it out the back of a UFO window. I don't know. But I'm ready for anything, because what I'm seeing is off the chain nuts.
True.
Just beyond over the top. Campy, ridiculous, irreverent. People are acting like, it's like if you were to take every sci-fi, horror, myth, biblical story, all the narratives and throw them into one film. That's like what we are. It's everything in the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
In my view, the intention of the script makers is to convince you of a divine predestination, that the reason you were born with Marilyn Monroe and this and all this happened is because you're some kind of, you're just finding that you're this being and you have special predestination. It's going into the new age kind of mindset. To me, that's what they're trying to push us into, this new age mindset.
Ray, the way I interpret that is very different. I see it as, well, do I have any free will at all, or I'm just doing what you wrote me to do?
Yes, I've always thought about
like,
that.
Are you showing me that I have no say in any of this, and this is just some bullshit script you've written for me?
Yeah, it's already
now you've decided to change it.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't make me feel special at all. It makes me feel more betrayed.
It's like we're being used,
like you're just
characters.
effing with me now. You're just messing with my mind. You're like some cosmic sadist.
Yeah,
and you have
kinda.
control of these soul conscious beings. Now you've put them somehow in physical suits where you can inflict torture and pain on them. Like, what if he's some cosmic Ted Bundy and we think this is God that did, you know what I mean? Like a psychopath would do that. A cosmic sadist would convince you you're in his world, he loves you, he's the creator, and then let all this horrific shit happen to you and all your friends and your love. I mean, like, it's something's got to give. That's why I feel like perhaps the more of us awaken and realize we're being deceived, just about 99% of everything that we know is a deception, we've got to stop believing it's real. And perhaps that's when it starts to buckle. It can't hold together if we no longer believe in it.
That's exactly why I wanted to have both you and Brian on, because the way you think and the way you express yourself is because you are critically self-aware and curious. But there are a lot of people who would call themselves Mandela affected, who are what I would call in the New Age group, that would not look at it like you, that would think, oh, yeah, I'm just finding this out because I'm this special, I'm predestined, I'm linked to JFK, this is my special role, and I'm just finding my special consciousness that I didn't even realize before, and So the New Age people that are linked to ego and not a sense of self-critical awareness, they're going to be, they're Mandela affected, but their ego sucks them into that this archontic consciousness where they're easily manipulated.
Oh yeah,
that this is good.
Yeah. It's
So
like when you really start to explore the near-death experience and the white light, there's deception there. It's almost like they give you a love bomb. They fill you with some cosmic stardust, opium or something.
Yeah. And
you literally get high, and you're so receptive in that moment of that bliss and that pleasure, you'll agree to whatever they go. Oh, yeah, go back and your body, you don't have, your legs are gone and your arms are gone, but we want you to go back and do good. You know, are you willing, after to go back into this horrific situation for the good of you? Like, are we getting tricked here?
Yeah, by the Archons, there's a whole narrative on that. Like, the Archons just use us for loosh.
Yeah.
But they keep sending us back just to, you have to fix your karma, or you have to learn new lessons. And each time they keep wiping our memory. That's a huge,
you
big
know what
memory
my
wipe.
fear,
How do you learn from that?
Fears, but my fear is that we haven't lived before. They just put us back in the same life over and over and over again.
Like Groundhog Day. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't need that much bandwidth or whatever. They can just put us in the same life every time.
Yeah.
And
pretty interesting.
One weird story I just wanted to mention as well, just a little weird story, is when I was experiencing this Mandela effect, with the family and stuff, when for example, my father in the first week of 2013, he all of a sudden turned a psychopath, and would kind of flip up. 1 minute he'd be normal, 1 minute he'd go, his eyes would turn like he's Chucky, and he would do some crazy rage. Like one time I saw him saying stuff about my mother and stuff like that, and he actually, I said, why are you doing that? You're making her cry. And he took out a knife. He all of a sudden got possessed, took out a knife and stuff like that. Went right to me, and I had to prevent him from stabbing me in the stomach. This was one of my fingers like that. So I talked to him, and then he would talk about, he's visiting these aliens, these entities are visiting him in his sleep and stuff like that. And I went to him, how do you know? Because I started doing research, in terms of the archons and the fallen angels. So I says, how do you know that they're not the fallen angels? And he all of a sudden I've never known my father to be.
It's like you're looking at Satan himself right in front of you.
So I've never known my father to have any fear at all. He all of a sudden got hysterical, and he goes, "Don't say that." He got hysterical as soon as I said fallen angels. He got scared and stuff like that. So he
can't handle it. He can't handle that.
Can't handle the truth.
And he would kept going around when he's in his normal state. He kept warning people, family and friends. The extraterrestrials, they're dangerous. And he kept warning people about that. And he just all of a sudden flipped and then he became completely self-controlled. But it's my only time that I ever saw my father in a state of fear. Was when I
that's
mentioned
terrifying. What a horrifying thing to go through.
I know.
Yeah. So it's like the total bizarre changes with family happening across, like you were talking about yourself, Nathan, around January 2013, the first week. It's just bizarre and stuff, what's been going on and stuff. But yeah. So did you talk about what you wanted to talk about, Brian, in terms of your channel? I'm not sure we interrupted you because we wanted to make sure people are able to easily find you on the YouTube and on the internet in general.
Yeah, I did, except I would say one other link I'd like to give out, and I will pass you the links. But if people go to doseofrealityshow.com, doseofrealityshow.com, and they click the My Links page, you'll find everything. All my channels, backup channels, emails, social media, all in one spot. So it's really easy.
Yeah, awesome. And Flat Earth, did you have a perspective you want to, any comments you want to make about Flat Earth, yourself, Nathan, or Brian?
Well, I mean, it's been part of my journey as well. We could kind of reflect back a little. So, I mean, I started with 9/11, and my take on 9/11 is much different than even other people that will tell you that there were no planes. I think it's a complete media psyop, and I've done tons and tons of presentations into this. But anyways, knowing that there's at least a large amount of fake imagery in 9/11 when it comes to certain things, I was told in 2011, now I'd been doing radio shows for a year, hey, you really need to have a look into the Apollo moon program. So as soon as I looked at the moon landing, I mean, it didn't take a weekend to figure out that this was complete and utter nonsense. Now, at the time, I was very focused on 9/11 like I am with the Mandela Effect now. But again, I'm always into multiple things. So I'm looking, Sandy Hook comes, Boston Marathon. I covered those a ton. First few major big shootings like Aurora and stuff, I covered those. But at the meantime, I didn't stop at the moon landing. Because why would I? Because I already know once part of it's a lie, it's all a lie. I learned these lessons from 9/11, So I started to look into satellites in space and the claims made. By 2012, 2013, I had come to the determination that there were not satellites in outer space. By early 2014, maybe late 2013, I come to the conclusion that the ISS was also a farce. And then right around the end of 2014, so this is before the explosion of it on YouTube, which was spring of 2015. I had a guy on my show. First of all, I'd already been looking at it. So in the summer of 2014, I saw a video that said stuff they don't really want you to know. It's a YouTube channel. You can still find it. It's got every conspiracy you can imagine. 5-minute video, all disinformation pretty much, right? So I clicked this Flat Earth one. Now, the interesting thing, too, people need to understand about all these things, whether it's Flat Earth, Mandela Effect. These people are way ahead of us on knowing what's going on. Of course they are. They got all the algorithm, the surveillance, right? So this disinformation video, my point is, it came out in 2010. It didn't come out when all the Flat Earth videos came out. It came out 5 years ahead of all of that. But in the video, it showed a bunch of nonsense, and we're going to definitely talk about some of these aspects of it. But it showed, water going over the edge and the sun actually going around the upward moving disk Earth and all this stuff that nobody actually believes. But they said one thing in it that rung a bell in my head like an alarm. They were showing a spacewalk. And they were like, flat earthers think that all NASA's imagery is fake. And I know photos can be fake, but to think all their imagery is fake? And right away, I'm like, well, hold on. All the 9/11 imagery is fake. Their moon landing imagery is fake. Of course it's all fake. So I started there wasn't any documentaries or any videos to really find, but a couple things started to leak out because people were noticing things in the Southern Hemisphere come the summer of 2014. So the first thing that kind of clued me in that there might be more to this, besides just them telling you a flat earthers believe in a 3-minute hit piece, was there were a couple videos that came out of people. They weren't saying flat earth, but they were talking about two things: the issues with the flight routes and the issues with the GPS on the planes in the Southern Hemisphere disappearing off flight trackers everywhere around the world, so you couldn't track planes as they're out over these vast areas of the Southern Pacific Ocean and whatnot, because they were hiding the flight routes is why they were doing that. And And again, this is all around the time I started to wake up to the Mandela Effect too. This is all a couple months later was the Mandela Effect. But I was just starting to almost go into my break. But my last show that I did in 2014 was a radio show that I did with this guy Wayne and this girl Connie. I was a guest on their show, and then he started to talk to Flat Earth about me, and he's like, have you heard about this at all? I'm like, actually, I've been looking at it a little, trying to get my co-host to look. And then he proceeded to get into it and tell me he had known for 10 years. So he had known since 2004, this guy. So then me and him are talking about it. Then that was it. I took a break and I started really researching this and researching Mandela Effect right around this time. I'd say by probably January of 2014. I was convinced that we weren't on a globe. And I would like to talk about why I think the lie, why I think it's such a huge truth, but why I think it's also limited people. And I'd love you guys to chime in on that because we have touched on that a little bit. I've dealt with a lot of frustration. So first off, I think it is one of the biggest deceptions of all time. And I get why it completely blows people's mind. And they think it's the biggest thing ever. But to be honest with you, nothing's the biggest thing ever. This keeps going. As much as we talked about the Mandela Effect, what's going to happen when we die? What's this soul trap thing? What's this reincarnation thing?
Yeah.
Those are all, it's going to keep going, okay? So, I thought this with 9/11 at first, right? This is the biggest thing ever. Well, then we have COVID. We have, on and on and on. But so with the flat earth, why the lie, right? So there's a lot of obvious answers if people go down the list. They want to hide where we are. They want to hide creation. They want to hide the supernatural. They want to make you feel insignificant. They don't want you to know you're the center of the universe. Then, of course, all the less spiritual reasons, power, money, take your pick, hiding resources, all that stuff. But I think there's another thing that a lot of people overlook that I think is my favorite reason. It's a complete corruption of your senses, and it will instill self-doubt in you forever. So if these people can convince you, even though you see the sun pass by overhead and the moon, well, you're really falling back and you're spinning, but even though nothing that they're saying correlates to what you experience, but then you trust them. And then you apply that to anything. They tell you people are dropping dead in the street, but you don't see that. You still believe it, and you put a mask on your face because you trust that authority figure over your senses now. So I think that's one of the biggest deals with it. For me, the fact that everything to do with airplanes, flying and landing on a spinning ball in space, and especially with north-south runways, and they anytime the people defending the globe are always trying to move the goalposts, and have Coriolis force whichever way is convenient for them, things like this. Now, it's been a great awakening. It's one of the biggest deceptions of all time, but for me personally, the things that people talk about waking up with flat earth, as far as realizing the whole world is one system because they're in with the Antarctic Treaty and all this other stuff and faking space and all the agencies, that's huge. But I already felt that way because of what I saw with 9/11 and all the nations and all the wars and all the agenda rolled out by that. I already was to that point, and I'm already to the point of not living in fear. And it's great that people are investigating the realm. Here's the problem. This place is more than physical. Obviously, we've been talking about Mandela Effect for 3 hours or whatever. There's the supernatural aspects of it. So Flat Earth shows you evidence that there is creation and something created this place. But the Mandela Effect shows it to you in action. Now what happens is, and this definitely doesn't apply for everybody, and the percentage is getting better. A lot of people can handle going through that awakening and then transitioning over to talk about the underlying aspect of reality, the Mandela Effect, right? But a lot of people, because they've been arguing things for so long, having to be in some sort of scientific paradigm, whether it's the curvature formula or, all these different scientific methods, what's actually happening in this reality is way outside of that. It's way beyond that. So a lot of people shut this down. And I also find it that, there's a lot of truth there, but it's kind of like the left-right thing again, right? Like the left is, I don't do any politics ever. They're all nuts, controlled puppets, right? But the left is really bonkers crazy. The right, there'll be some people that are doing some truth things, but then they're always still in the right-wing paradigm, right? They're still in
being
there.
Controlled by the Yeah.
That's how I look at the globe versus the flat Earth. Kind of, because the globe is complete nonsense, and flat Earth has a lot of truths, but it's also used to keep you trapped in that physical paradigm. And a lot of us can see through it and keep moving, realize it's important to keep moving on. But a lot of people are still stuck there. They've been stuck there forever. And for 5 years, I've been trying to wake these people up, especially when there's Mandela effects related to the Earth or the sky or flat Earth or these planets in the Bible. I thought every time I was going to finally wake up the flat Earthers to these changes. And almost all of them, at least the large name content creators, almost all of them have completely shunned it, poo-pooed it, even come out at me over it and completely embarrassed themselves, just completely embarrassed themselves. And my problem is, it's not like, hey, we're right. It's this is important, man. And I find a lot of ego in these movements, just like I talked about the 9/11. I know some great people. I live with great people because of Flat Earth. We're going to have an event with 400, 500 people this fall, like we do all the time. Fantastic people. It's changed my life. But there's a lot of ego in this movement as well, and people think that they've reached the finish line of truth, and it shines through. You can see that ego coming out like crazy, and I just see a lot of the name calling back and forth. It's kind of an immature thing, and I'm trying to get away from that. I see a lot of these people do when they're arguing over it, and they're really doing themselves a disservice by not diving into the Mandela effect, because you can't have one without the other. We're trying to discover what this reality is, and you want to ignore. You say you believe in the supernatural. You say that they lied about the Earth because they're hiding God. Well, my opinion, God's calling out. Or even if you think it's not God's Earth, the creator of the Earth, or the simulation that you think we're in, or whatever it is, it's definitely sending us messages. Why would you want to ignore that and just say, well, the Earth's flat, that's all I need to know? There's this whole group of guys I know in the flat Earth community that I call them the Dolly's braces crowd. All these people will admit that they know that Dolly had braces in the Moonraker film, and it's a Mandela effect, but they won't go any further than that. And anytime the Mandela, it's like a program they're running, the Dolly program. Anytime Mandela effect's brought up in a chat that they're in, they'll just be like, well, I know one thing. I know Dolly had braces, but they completely shut down after that. I mean, I've tried on multiple people, and they all say it's the Dolly's braces crowd. It's really, really weird.
They're just not ready.
What's weird, when I first saw Brian on YouTube, I was living in Port St. Lucie, Florida. In Port St. Lucie, Florida is where the part of the St. Lucie River is, where they filmed the boat chase scene in Moonraker.
Wow.
So so the connections to the changes are what make me think that we are being communicated with personally and directly and collectively. That's why I wish everybody would really start thinking, okay, but you got to be careful, because they'll say you have schizophrenia. Everything we're talking about here, we would be, if we went to a medical professional or they got to a hospital, they would put us a psychiatric, wing of a hospital.
There's this aspect too of the awakening for me, and this is my perspective. So I've come through a lot of deception. And I've kind of been the guy in many cases to really break it down to a lot of people. And I think getting people to not live in fear is just as important as getting them to realize seeing the changes in this reality. I truly believe that. But you also have to put yourself first on your journey as well. You have to take care of yourself. And I can't continue to focus my energy on things that I already know are fake, right? You think I'm going to sit there and break down a fake shooting now or a fake rocket launch? It's like, it's just tying you back into the fake reality. And I see people, and it's great that there's people that still break these things down and do what I used to do. But there's also people that never get past that, like these 9/11 guys I've been around before. They always deny the Mandela effect and talk down on it. And they'll just sit there and keep showing you every event's fake. It's like, well, how long are you going to put all your energy into everything's fake? We're trying to ascend here on a spiritual level, and you guys are telling. This is my problem too. It's like, I don't have the biggest following. I should have a much bigger following. And there's a lot of people that have huge followings on YouTube, and they're basically all telling everybody the Mandela effect's a psyop.
It's sad. It's they shadow ban people that are actually speaking
exactly.
The
they shadow
truth.
ban them.
They
shadow ban them, and then the people who are doing the fake misinformation, YouTube promotes that.
Yes.
Search Mandela effect on YouTube without any filters. You'll never see any of my stuff. And I put more videos out that are not only quality and long, but they also all have Mandela Effect. So many of them in the title of the hashtags. None of my stuff shows up. It's all the nonsense with, here's 20 Mandela Effects. Look at Chick-fil-A behind me on the green screen, and
The usual. They just stick to the same.
And they have those awful screenshot thumbnails where they're looking all surprised and stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
same thing.
Oh my God.
It's
And
like
they
they're
appeared
ridiculing
overnight.
the
They just appeared in 2015 overnight. They weren't there when I first heard
Controlled
about Sex
opposition.
in the City. All the next thing I know, within 6 months, it was everywhere on YouTube with those silly little thumbnails of them all making the same stupid ass expression. Oh, I just thought, what is this thing that is trying to control people knowing about this?
And that's what people in the mainstream think. So, like, we might think that, you might talk to somebody that says, "Oh, I know about the Mandela Effect," but what they know about the Mandela Effect is that stuff. They don't have any idea about anything.
They list off the same stuff, talking points from the
and they still walk away thinking it's probably a false memory, and they don't know anything about the evidence. They don't know anything about
like what you said, Brian. I think is very good. I want to just sort of add to that is take care of yourself. What we're talking about to the average person sounds like you're in a psychotic episode. You've lost your mind. So don't tell people that are in a position to hurt you if they misinterpret what you're saying. So be very protective of yourself, especially if you live with family or you live at home with parents or whatever, because you don't want to go into a facility because they think you're losing your mind. So just play it cool. You've got us to talk to. Be careful about who you do reveal this to, and just save your deeper thoughts about this when you're calling into Brian's show or something, or in a chat room on this or whatever. Because protect yourself. And that's why I take my stuff down off YouTube. I have a brother and sister that, I don't have a spouse. So legally, if they saw a video where they hear me talking like, now my sister now knows about it, but let's say before this happened, that's a little dicey. Because we have to kind of be in the world but not of the world.
Yes, exactly.
Great once said, and remember where we are. And this is there are dragons here. Wear your armor. Be smart. Protect yourself. You're not crazy, but they don't know that yet. They're going to be a while before they get the picture of what we've been talking about. And I think that day will come. I asked that one time on a song message. I said, Sam, will they ever wait? What's going to happen when this, because he kept saying something big was coming. So what's going to happen when this big thing happens? And he played Nessun Dorma, which is a Puccini opera, and it means none shall sleep in Italian. So that gave me the sense that what's happening now is laying the groundwork for some larger intervention into our physical reality that's going to get everybody's attention worldwide.
It's very important we get as many people to realize this as possible, my take. And I just want to say, for people that don't know me that might be watching this on your channel later, I know I've expressed some frustration over different groups to see the Mandela Effect that don't. I just want people to know, though, like, I work very hard at building bridges and building communities, not tearing them down. So I've worked very hard at trying to connect, particularly the Flat Earth community and the Mandela Effect community. And even with my frustration, I have had a lot of success. I've had a lot of success.
Well, let's hope so, Brian.
I've had a lot of success with the people in the chats and everything. And when I used to go into these types of chats, 20 or 30 people would be receptive to the Mandela Effect. Now, when I go in a chat, it's more like 60 or 70 of them. And there's always those ones that will never, get past the physical. And I'm learning that most of the content creators are that way. And there's a lot of reasons for that, right? Some, it's their ego. A lot of people don't want to be knocked off what they think is their high horse of truth. Some people are obviously some people are compromised. Some people are scared. Some people are not compromised necessarily. They're like an agent, but they become so used to their income coming from a certain group of people that maybe they're afraid if they go talk about this, they'll lose a lot of that. Like, there's a lot of things that tie into it. But you know what I think overall? I don't think any of those are good reasons.
Yeah. It's not worth it.
You got to be true to yourself and true to your audience. And this is the biggest thing that's ever happened so far, in my opinion. It's blatantly obvious that it's happening. And most of the people that deny this know that it's happening. They're lying to themselves, trying to lie to us, but we're not buying it.
Yeah, Well, definitely. I mean, it's, you know, that's definitely, like Santosh said, well said. It's great that, you know, both you and, you know, yourself, Brian and Nathan, have a channel that you can come together, spread that self-awareness, spread that awakening that is so important for us to, in terms of elevating our state of human consciousness to a point that hopefully, you know, we will be able to resist what type of, for lack of a better word, demonic or negative influence is trying to create a ruse of deception that's trying to enslave us, destroy us, or manipulate us, or exploit us, or some type of agenda. It's important that the people make themselves aware who aren't capable of that, so that we can move away from this type of environment before everything becomes potentially destroyed, which is like what I see going on for Ukraine war and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh, we're sitting on a tinderbox, man. Yeah. It's about to blow. I feel it.
It looks like it. A lot of people are dropping dead now because of
a lot of people are getting the hell out of here.
Yeah, and you know, I had to pick a guy up off the floor because this is like a couple months ago. I'm in my favorite pizza spot around here, which really isn't that great. I live in the middle of nowhere, though. He comes walking in, this guy. He's a big oafy guy. He's, you know, like maybe 6'2" and 275 or something. And he just takes a dive on the floor. He just falls on the floor, and he's like squirming to get back up. Now I'm like trying to pick this guy up off the floor, and he's saying, "No, my cowboy boots, blaming, you know, because the cowboy boots don't have grip, and he slipped on the restaurant floor." But before I even got him off the ground, which is like only 10 seconds later, his story went from my cowboy boots to, I just had 2 shots yesterday. I got my booster and my flu shot, one in each arm. And I'm like, I sat the guy down and I'm like, hey, don't you think that maybe like that contributed to like your legs being weak or something? And man, he just, there's nothing there. And what's crazy is people said I was going to kill people by taking all these flights with not covering my face and going to California and talking to people in the streets. I had family disown me, saying I was going to kill people by doing this. And I'll tell you what, not only me, but by the way, I talked about these events. And by the way, I do meetups all the time. People can come hang out with us, talk with us in person. I haven't seen Nathan in person yet, but we will. But we do, my friend Karen throws Flat Earth event every October with 400 people under one roof. We did 4 of them during what's been going on. No masks, no vax, no nothing, showing people to not live in fear. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, people, and I did forget where I was going with that before I made the point about that. I forget what I was saying. Picking people up off the floor. So my buddy Tommy, he during this, when they opened like a Walmart up and started jabbing people up in there, and there was lines of people. He saw 3 people taken out by ambulance, filmed it, and not one person stepped out of line. Other friends of mine have also picked up people off the floor. You know who's never been picked up off the floor? Me or any of my unjabbed, unmasked friends. We're all perfectly fine. You know? It's crazy what's going on.
I think we need to stop worrying about these people. I'm serious.
Yeah,
like I'm at the point now
it's
where
hard.
It is hard.
It's hard. It's gotta let go at some point.
Maybe some will be left behind, or there's a cleanup crew coming later. We got to just keep moving forward, because what if time is running out?
Yeah.
You know, we all know, every one of us as mortal humans, our time will at some point, the glass and the sand in the hourglass will run out.
Yeah.
And I think this is the time to really be awake, pay attention, stay open-minded. Don't dismiss things unless you fully explore it and really look into it. You know, you got to go many layers deep. They don't make awakening easy here. They veil everything as much as they can. It's just, you know, that's why I just pull more and more out of the actual reality as I can, because I can't handle it anymore. And as a writer with a very vivid imagination, it's too much for me.
Yeah, and when you said we need to give up on these people, I mean, I kind of did. I mean, your journey progresses, and at first, you know, everybody's going to want to hear this about 9/11, right? And then it just goes, the percentage of people you think you're going to wake up just goes down and down and down, and it's just like, once.
Oh, I thought I thought the Sex in the City thing, as soon as I notified CNN, would be all over. It would be like the world would stop and be in absolute shock that this could happen, and it would start an evolution. I mean, I've never been so disappointed in my life.
Well, I'll tell you,
they all remembered Sex in the City, but they just didn't think it was a big deal.
Once COVID started, and like I told you, I saw the way that people had lost their compassion. I realized it was time to disassociate from as many of these people as possible. And I was fortunate that Karen said, "Hey, why don't you move here?" And I left Lowell, Massachusetts, where you saw me in that picture, and I moved to North Carolina 3 years ago in June of 2020. And now I live with people that know that everything's a lie, and know that the globe's a lie, and know that the Mandela Effect's real. And we have a bunch of like-minded people in this area, and it's been such a refreshing change. Now, the problem is, not everybody can do that, and some people are married to a spouse who's dead asleep, and that's something that we talk about a lot on my show, because a lot of people woke up but their spouse didn't, and that's what a nightmare that must be. And it's torn apart families of a few friends of mine. One over the Mandela Effect, he's a preacher that was just on my show the other night, and my other buddy over what's gone on in the last 3 years and what she wanted to subject the children to go back to school and all that, and he wasn't having it. Completely split the family up,
Wow. Yeah, no, this was heavy stuff. This is major, what went on and what's still going on.
Yeah, that was the big schism I was mentioning with the first week of January 2013, where whole families, one person would wake up in the family, and the rest of the family would be in this sort of consciousness of this artificial state of consciousness, so that the one person would be completely isolated from the rest of the family members that seem to be part of what you were talking about, Nathan. That, what do you call it again? Body snatchers. It's like you wake up to this body snatcher realm of some kind.
And they don't want to know anything. Like, I have a friend, and man, God bless him for doing this, right? I'm not good at reaching out to people. Like just randomly, like, hey, I haven't talked to you in a couple months. How you doing? Like, but he makes an effort to call me once or twice a year, and we talk on the phone. So he was well aware, because everybody's on my Facebook. They're well aware that crazy Brian's getting on the plane during all this, and he's going to California. And so he calls me after I'm over there. Maybe my second or third trip out there. I've been out there like so many times to see my friend out there during this. Maybe more than a dozen times during COVID. But he calls me up to see how I'm doing. He stops. I say, hello. Hey, what's up? I said, hey, what's going on? How you doing? He said, hey, good. I just want to let you know, I don't want to talk about the mask. I got to be safe and keep my kids safe and all that. And I'm just, that's how the conversation started. Then within the next minute of the conversation, he's like, what have you been doing? I'm like, oh, I'm doing good, going out. I'm visiting this girl over here. Blah, 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 blah. He's like, you still doing that 9/11 thing? And I said, I said that 9/11 thing. You mean like asking questions about what people tell us? Yeah, I'm still doing the 9/11 thing. Like, just completely wants to be disconnected from everything. And then, as late as last Christmas, which is end of 2022, things have winded down. He's got a picture of his family in New York and Times Square or whatever in front of a huge Christmas tree, like 8 kids. And they're all masked up outside. And this is only 6 months ago. We already know that restrictions were all lifted and people were more chill by then. And it's just like, this is because you don't listen to anything I say. Just listen to something. Like, I don't want you to just believe what I say or have to jump down the flat earth rabbit hole or anything like that. I know you guys all think I'm crazy. You see my Facebook. But can you ask some questions? Like, why do the dudes I grew up with, who I thought some of these dudes were some pretty cool, pretty hard dudes or whatever, not a bunch of pussies or nothing, but they all believe the government and lick their boots. It's so crazy to me. Like, I didn't know all my friends were such bitches. Not all of them. There's a couple that are awake and they'll probably even watch this show, but a few of my really good friends, as you guys know how it is, I mean, just completely dead asleep. And they weren't dumb people, and they never had trust in the government or the police force or anything. But they're just the trust in the media.
It's almost supernatural. It's almost supernatural.
The biggest psyop ever, the smartest psyop ever, is them crafting this program called the news and convincing people that that's their reality, no matter what you actually perceive.
God,
that's fake news.
It's so frightening.
Nathan talked about them, talking about hospitals and me visiting, but I went to specific ones in California that they said were overflowing specifically and put out an article, and we went there. You know what we found when we went to Los Robos Hospital? I'm expecting, this is April 28th, 2020. I'm expecting me and Steffi are going to roll up there. I'm going to roll my camera, and I'm going to film an empty ER, right? That's what I'm expecting. What actually happened is I rolled up, panned my camera over to the empty ER, and all of a sudden, 19 or 20 doctors or nurses all came outside, walked across to the grass, held cardboard signs that said they were heroes, and stood out there for about 15 minutes for a photo op, all taking pictures while there was nothing going on in the hospital.
No patients, no sick people.
Yeah, all those dances they were doing. Dances on TikTok and all that stuff.
It's absolutely absurd.
See, I don't want to give this, whatever this place is, I don't want to give it any more of my energy. I'm not. I don't trust it. I don't like it. To me, it needs to be exposed for what it is. I believe that human beings have a fundamental right to know where they are.
Yes, they do.
To not be deceived about the basic things that a human needs to feel safe and thrive. We never had a chance here. I don't think we know what a real human being who's not molested or interfered with by other entities or whatever would really be like. Can you imagine the paradise we would create? So yeah, this thing's rotten, and I think it's rotten from the ground up. I do. Yeah. And I think that's why it's corrupted. I think that's why we die. And one day it hit me because I was thinking about God, and I thought, well, what God would create a being? What immortal God would create a being that dies? Why wouldn't you give the being you're creating immortal life? It doesn't make sense. We've been told a lot of stuff that does not make rational sense.
I don't think God wants us to be here forever because he knows this place is toxic. So he just wants us to see how it is and then just experience it and get out. That's it. And then learn from it.
Is it a corrupted copy of something divinely created? You see what I mean?
But that's what I
it
think
was an attempt by something to create what was beautiful and pure, and because it didn't have the spiritual power.
Exactly.
Yeah. It created a fucked up version. Excuse my
exactly.
French.
But that's what, if you look at the story of the fallen angels, this is what they do. They create copies of the divine, and then they try to pretend they're God, and then create a completely corrupted environment that aesthetically looks like God, but it isn't. It's completely corrupted. That's exactly what the story of the fallen angels. I can send you some links, that you probably already know, but I can say that shows that that's exactly what the fallen angels do. They are artificial intelligence. I mean, David Icke called them reptilian, that manifest, that have the power, a highly sophisticated technological power to replicate and imitate, but have no divine, there's nothing divine about them. So that's exactly what they do. They create a copy of the divine and fool us into believing that it's real, but it's actually completely fake, and it sucks us in. Just like when you're talking about the smart people. Because
we're divine, they can't trick us completely. Yeah. And they can't control that part of us that is higher than them.
But they're trying to. But this is their challenge. In my view, they have adopted us because these fallen angel entities have it in their challenge to conquer the being, what God, the divine, what the Creator created. They're trying to say, okay, this is how I'm going to assimilate and conquer God through these beings, by trying to trick them that they're actually experiencing the divine. So this is what all this deception is.
Yeah, it created like a Venus flytrap.
Yeah, they're trying to. Yeah,
I have always had the image, since I started questioning all this, of the cosmic stranger with candy.
Yeah,
he comes cruising by in his little celestial Cadillac, and he's got some treats.
Yeah,
and the little magical human children's souls are trusting and get in the car with him.
Yeah,
it could be as simple as that. And we're in the basement of the cellar of some cosmic sadist.
Yeah,
and we've got to
exactly.
break free of this thing. And we have the power. We just have to know what the truth is, because I think that's why he said the truth will make you free, and that's a Mandela effect. It was the truth shall set you free.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
it says the truth shall make you free. There's a big difference between
Interesting.
set and make. So are we being handed like the ropes to grab onto and climb up out of this underworld hellish like realm? Is that what this is? Is that what Mandela effect and all of this awakening and in the numbers and seeing thing and then the synchronicities? What if we're literally entering a singularity of consciousness, and that's what that final stage feels like? Everything goes
merging of all the realities.
Yeah, where we're going to go into some sort of singularity, and this is how we know we're getting there, because all of this is now starting to happen.
Right.
You know, also retrocausality is an important thing to consider with especially Mandela effect. You know, and that is, and you can read about it, you know, online, but it's a scientific principle, and it's about events happening in the future that reverberate back into the past. And is that what this is? Does something happen? Is something coming in the future that is so mind-blowing to human consciousness that it literally echoes back, reverberates like throwing a pebble in a lake where they ripple out? And the further out you get, the more dispersed they are. So maybe we're getting the bands of this ripple
and
that are
could
really
happen.
intense and tight.
There's a Star Trek episode on that. A Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Really?
I can send you the link to that one.
Please do. I don't know. I'm bad about not having seen a lot. I was a Dark Shadows fan. That's where my world was.
So you guys, if you haven't, you guys, and I do have to kind of go pretty soon because I'm getting starving. And it's getting too late to grab food. But you guys, if you haven't, definitely got to watch the Westworld series. Nathan recommended that to me.
Subscribe to Crave.
Listen,
especially
we
the
watched
first 2 seasons.
It was really good. We did a couple shows talking about it. There's so many parallels to what we see here. Definitely. And another good one is the movie Yesterday. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that one.
That's cool. That's
Mandela Effect. The guy, everybody forgets about the Beatles and the guy.
Yeah.
I have that DVD actually. It's a good one.
That's a cool one. But before we go, let me say one thing before I forget. And I'm not trying to cut you off. I know you still want to say something. I just want to remind people also on my channel, I do a series called My Awakening, where I interview everybody on a one-on-one format. Various people that I find fascinating in the truth communities. I've had so many people you guys would know and maybe wouldn't know on there. Nathan was like episode 49. I'm on like 88 now. But what I do is I don't have people on for a topic-specific interview. I have them on to lay out their whole journey from they were a kid all the way up to now, and all their favorite topics and impacts in their life and everything in between. And it's a great way also for people that see each other in the chat or whatever to finally get to know, hey, what's this Nathan guy all about that I see writing good things in the chat? Oh, here's his whole awakening story, you know? So I think people would be interested in checking that out.
Okay. Yes. So just before we sign off, I just want to thank both of you, yourself, Brian and Nathan, for coming on the show. One little single thought that I wanted to leave us, potentially our viewers as well, is one feeling I used to have before the Mandela effect became dominant was that I regarded as smart. There'd be a group of smart people all over the place that tended to be idealists, that I could rely on as an individual and as a community to keep civilization moving on a positive way. Now what I'm seeing, which is remarkable, is that people who are supposedly smart, mostly are completely impervious to not only to the Mandela effect, but become completely easily willful control entities in some type of artificial consciousness matrix. And to me is one of the big shocks with this whole dystopian context that we've been experiencing. The Mandela effect is these so-called smart people that are all like parrots and not the idealists would challenge authority. They would move ideas and say, we don't have that anymore. We just have this cynical, artificial control consciousness trying to tell people like us that it's all in our imagination, fall in the line, this kind of national socialist, i.e. Nazi control matrix rhetoric, which is replacing the sense of us being liberated beings of curiosity, spiritually aware and wanting to the best for each other. And so just one of the little thoughts I wanted to leave. Any small little thought you want to leave, Nathan?
Yeah, I want to leave one last story.
Yeah.
Now, this to me sums up all of what we're talking about these last, 5-6 hours we've been going.
Yeah.
I was down visiting my friends, the couple that I was telling you, we watched the whole 2.5-hour thing and they heard a completely different message. We're all sitting in the room together. Anyway, I go visit them at their house in Long Island and I'm telling them about the Bewitched Mandela Effect, where she no longer twitches her nose, right? And, and I'm going deep with this thing. And yeah, I said, she never twitches it now. She doesn't it doesn't physically move. It looks bizarre. Right?
I remember that.
Yeah, you can find people on YouTube showing you how she did it. It is possible to do it the way she used to do it, and that's what made her special. That's why it was a bit in the show. So I'm going to tell them about this, and then they're wanting to stop. I can tell they don't want to hear any more about Bewitched's nose, and I'm just pushing. I can't help myself. And finally, they're like, well, we're hungry. Maybe we'll go get something to eat. I said, all right, fine. We'll go. We walk into this restaurant. I've never been in this restaurant before in my life. It's their town. It's in Huntington, Long Island in New York. And we sit down at the table. The waitress sits us at a booth. Every booth has its own TV. And guess what is playing on that effing TV when we sit down? Bewitched!
What are the odds, huh?
And I said to them, crazy. Do you see this? This is something communicating with human beings that we don't understand. But how is that possible? What are the odds that of all the TV shows in the history of broadcasting, it would be the exact one that we're talking about on the way in here?
What do they see it? Because it's like a frequency.
Completely lost on them. There's no magic there at all. It's crazy Nathan. That's just
remember
crazy
that
Nathan.
Laurel and Yanny thing? Some people only heard Laurel no matter what they did.
Yeah, what is that?
Yanny. So it's kind of like that. They will not see it until they're on.
It's like a frequency. If you're not on that truth frequency, you're not going to see it.
So I got one quick story that I really want to get it out. It's not too long. I have these meetups a lot, like besides the big events. Like I'm going to have a meetup in like 2 weeks in Charlotte, usually like 20-25 people there, people from the area. So I had one in Charlotte so again, my thing that I've been doing, the topics we've been talking about, I've really focused in a lot on trying to wake other people up in the truth movement, particularly my flat earth friends, to the Mandela Effect. It's something I've really focused in on a lot, like I said. So that being said, I'm having a meet up in Charlotte. It's, everybody there doesn't believe NASA. Most of the people believe the Mandela Effect, but not everybody, right? So then you guys are familiar with the King Tut Mandela Effect?
Yeah, the snake on the...
There's an extra critter there now.
So,
extra critter.
Yeah, he used to have a snake in the center of his forehead, and now there's a snake and a bird, and it's no longer symmetrical. I had just made a video on it, or maybe I had just reposted it, and then I have this meetup, and, we're at some restaurant or whatever. It was actually the day after my meetup, but we all went out for lunch, probably a dozen of us, in Charlotte. And this restaurant we go into is just a restaurant that's themed like it's a bunch of 45s, the records, 45s. Right. They're all like plastered all over the ceiling and the wall, and it's that type of theme. And I'm waiting for a drink, and she's taking a while, so I say, you know what, I'm going to go get up and go to the bar, right? Now, meanwhile, I'm trying to work on people about the Mandela Effect. I walk over, I take a right and go around the corner, and on each side of the bar is a full-size King Tut replica with just a snake on its forehead, right? Just the snake, right? So, and it gets better. So, of course, I'm like, you guys got to see this. This is what I'm talking about. Look at this residue. And not only that, why is there a King Tut residue in this bar that's themed? It's got nothing to do with Egypt, history, nothing, man. It's got nothing to do with anything.
It's so random.
It's like a rock and roll, maybe a sports type thing. So that was wild. Made a video on it. Talked about this is like a synchronicity for me. This is like meant for me to show these people. Because also when we have our big flat earth events with 400 people, I'm always filming. The last couple I've had the cameraman follow me around with like professional footage, but a lot of times I'm outside with my phone. And what I always do is I walk up to him, and I know this makes a lot of people uncomfortable.
First of all, they want to be on camera. I'm going to ask them their favorite flat Earth proof, but I'm also going to ask them their biggest Mandela effect. All right. So a good portion of them are on board and they'll give it to me. But a lot of people just like, oh, I don't, and they just kind of like melt down over it type of thing. So I'm always, my point is I'm always trying to work on these people. Of course, that's what I do, right? So that happens with the King Tut. 2 months later, at the last big event we had last October in Greenville, South Carolina, there's 400 of us there. And I'm inside getting footage and stuff, and my friend runs over to me. He knows about the Mandela Effect. And he's like, King Tut, and I was really busy. I didn't really pay attention to what he was saying. I thought he was telling me there was like maybe like a poster or a little trinket, some residue in there, but I didn't have time to go look at it right now, right? Later on in the night, he's like, you really got to come out to the parking lot with me, right? I'm like, what the fuck's going on out there? Dude, out there next to the dumpster. Now, I had one meetup, didn't have another one, and then we have our event, and now next to the dumpster, there's a crate that's 10 feet long, about 6 feet high, wooden crate, and the corner of it is peeled back with the nails.
This
like
was
heavy
wood, thick.
Yeah, just the corner's peeled back. The corner was peeled back just enough for me to look inside, and I have pictures and video to see that there was a white porcelain King Tut inside this crate with just the snake on his forehead.
They're just rubbing it over your
buried out in the back of our flat Earth event, just waiting for us.
In a literal tomb, in a literal casket, a wood casket.
Interesting.
That's opening the tomb. That seems to be a big theme that I pick up on.
Yeah.
So I went in and asked the staff about it. So the staff there's cool. They obviously were having a flat Earth event in their building. They know that we're all about that. So I asked her. I said, I had already asked her, like, you know, about the Mandela Effect. They knew very little, but they knew a few things. So I went back in, and I didn't mention it as a Mandela Effect now or anything. But I'm like, can I ask you about what that, that King Tut is doing out in, like, the back of the parking lot there? Like, how did that get there? She goes into this whole story about how there was, like, this golf course that burnt down, and there were these two Sphinx that were there, and one of the Sphinx ended up out back. Now, King Tut's not a Sphinx anyways, so her story's not making any sense, but there was, like, this whole story of this burnt down golf course that for some reason they transported this big white porcelain King Tut and dropped it off before our event. Now, Nathan, I went back there like a month ago because I was in the area and I wanted to see if it was still there because I was going to ask them if I could buy it off them. It's gone now, though. It is gone now.
Wow.
That little story reminds me of some of those drunk driving videos I see on YouTube where you stop somebody drunk and all of a sudden, in order to deflect the fact they're drunk, they come up with, to tell the police officer some wild story that they were there. The deflection is like all of a sudden a program said in, okay, let's blow smoke around this trail in something that he'll believe or something. To me, that kind of reminds me of that. So, yeah. So, again, thank you very much. I want to thank
you.
Marathon Show.
It was wonderful. Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank
Nathan.
you.
Thank you, Brian. And if any time you make your way north of the border, particularly to Ottawa, we definitely want to meet either both of you together or one of you if you decide, let me go to Canada. You know, it's a wonderful place to go in the summer.
Yes.
Not too bad in winter. So if you want to make, so anytime you're thinking you want to trip, have you ever been to Canada, either of you?
I've been to Montreal probably 15 to 20 times when I was young.
Nice.
Yeah, okay.
To go there, I went to when you could drink when you're 18. So from 18 to 21, I was constantly driving up from
Massachusetts. Okay. Yeah. And what about you, Nathan? Have you been to Canada?
No, haven't been yet.
Okay, well, you got to make it.
Ottawa.
You got to make it.
Ottawa Book Expo we're doing, so.
But it's been 20 years. I haven't been there in 20 years. So.
Well, it's a lot of changes. So
I'm going to research Ottawa tonight.
That's right. Research Ottawa tonight. And if
what I can find.
Make a trip to Ottawa. It's a fantastic tourist-friendly place. We'd love to have a coffee get-together or dinner get-together with both of you to have pick off where we left off. And this.
I would love that. That would be so much fun.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. We can arrange a hotel for you and everything.
Yeah. We'll get a hotel for you.
All right.
We'll get a hotel for you. We have connections. And we'll send you a link to an Ottawa video to whet your appetite about Ottawa.
Oh, I would love that.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll send it to Brian, and Brian will send it to you, Nathan.
Sounds great.
Awesome. So thank you very much for coming. to another edition of Toronto Business Journal Special Edition on the Mandela Effect. And we hope all our listeners and viewers out there enjoyed the fabulous conversation with Brian and Nathan and with Santosh. Thank you very much, Santosh, to you as being a co-host of the show tonight.
No worries. It was my pleasure.
Have a wonderful
Bye,
day.
everybody.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
I don't know what's going to stop recording.